Hi everyone, welcome to Legends and Lore Season 3, Episode 8. And with me today are, as usual,
Mike Bridges.
and we
Dominic.
have Jay Scott on today.
Hi,
Yeah.
Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello.
Yeah, for this is a very special show. We have the back from indie, kind of back from Gen Con show, and we needed to have expertise on
I
the
didn't
job
go,
for.
so I want to hear all the stories. So I'm
Yeah,
just going to sit
yeah.
back. You
Yeah, and
talk about
I went but I missed the main Greyhawk attraction, so that's why we need Jay here, and we need him simply because he's an awesome Greyhawk creator
Thank you.
and person. But we also
was,
need him because he's the one that was more into the Greyhawk stuff than I was. So yeah.
was
And
that your first Gen
Carlos,
Con?
this is my first. This is my bucket list Gen Con. 52
Oh,
years old, my first one.
okay. So
Yeah,
yeah. So you've
yeah,
done your Hajj. You've
absolutely.
been there now. So this was my
Yep.
sixth Gen Con, I think. Yep. So
Yeah.
no, my fifth. I thought it was my sixth. It was actually my fifth Gen Con. Yep. So I've been there 5 times now. So I'm starting to be a little bit of a veteran. I can know my way around the convention center without reading the signs or anything. So
Everyone's-
yeah. So okay.
Excellent.
For before we go into it, Mike, I haven't barely talked to you. You've been writing cool stuff on your blog and done a
And
few other cool things while the rest of the gaming world was in indie,
actually having
yeah,
fun.
running around like crazy.
Yeah. So on Greyhawkery, if you go there now, I have a new article up that is basically like a what if situation. What if I use defeats Furiandi? What if the Greyhawk Wars was different? Just go on there, read. I got a map up there. It's all color coded. You can see if you know the Greyhawk Wars well, you'll notice the differences right away. Uh, Otherwise, yeah, enjoy.
Hmm.
Do with it what you will.
Hey, Mike, can I ask you a question on that, Matt?
What's up?
Why would IU's stop at Ferrandi and Valuna and not continue south?
That's where that map is stops where I would say the post wars begin.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
where like a new battle line is drawn. Yeah, no, the war's not stopped. That's just where
Okay.
you know.
All right. Just was curious on
Yep,
that
yep.
because
Yeah,
Keeland would probably have the
yeah.
power
There's
too, but
like some new alliances that are formed,
okay.
and then the battles continue.
Very intriguing. It's a very
Yep.
intriguing map, definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Whenever you draw the end of the war, it's kind of always tension enough, and it's like
Huh.
in the Living Greyhawk after that, it's like Furundi has that eternal
I'm
state of
just
war with Ayus,
Right.
and
I've always been frustrated with that, and I thought, screw it. Furiani loses. Continue.
that's kind of that's brave, and it's in
Wow.
a way it's kind of cool because in the game world you want to have a lot of bad guys because that's
It
good for
puts
make it easy to run
yeah,
adventures and find villains. So
Furiani falls. It puts Greyhawk right on the front lines, and all of a
yep.
sudden, a neutral city like Greyhawk can't stay neutral anymore.
Yep, that's
Pretty,
a very good point. And the
definitely
Ernst
intriguing.
state becomes some of the Ernst and Keoland become some of the most powerful good players still in the game, so to speak.
Blake's right. Yes, the Arch Cleric of Boluna did banish a ton of fiends, but you don't need the fiends necessarily for this to go through.
And that was also well after the publications came out, and they did that after as a matter of
Uh,
fact, right? If I recall correctly,
I think
because
just to kind of clean it up.
yeah,
Yep, that's kind
they
of
used the Crook of Ral, right? Correct
hmm.
Right.
on that. It was
Yep.
Crook of Ral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was in one of the interesting things that
And
they
what
described.
I also think is bad about that is sure, okay, you unsummon the demons. The portals are still there.
Yeah,
You can
so you can get them in again. That's the way I
yeah,
saw it. It was that you
yeah,
basically
Yeah.
killed off, kind of got them back for the moment, and
right.
then the EUs had to start back again from scratch.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
how I envisioned it. So it was kind of a you won the battle, but it didn't guarantee any of the winning the war. So yeah.
yeah, Leakum's right. The Crook is in Isle of the Eighth, and that's one of the modules I own but never
Hmm.
ran. Has any of you guys ever touched that?
I
No, I.
Right.
Hmm.
touched part of it
Uh huh.
because you go there an expedition to the ruins of Greyhawk. They actually send you to different yeah, there's
Oh,
portals to hop through, and you go to the Isle of the Ape on that as
well,
well. It's one of them.
Is that on Stormwater Island in Realmur Bay?
what, the Isle of the Eighth?
Yeah.
I don't know where it's at. I think it's a demiplane.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
think
It's
it
a
is
demo.
too.
Yeah, yeah. I remember reading it, but that was like 20 years ago, so I
Yeah.
forgot. I was just remembered that it's a little island in the realm where that is actually called Monkey Island. So I thought that was, but it's not related. Yep. You see, that's the
World of
problem.
Warcraft really rips it off too. If you ever played World of Warcraft and
Oh, wow.
Stranglethorn Vale, they got the island with the big ape on it
Oh,
out there too. So they
okay.
kind of, yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a little bit too much King Kong influences here. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. So okay, on to the big event Gen Con, that beast
Yep.
in the RPG industry, which means that the whole year kind of revolves around it. That's the time before Gen Con, it's during Gen Con, and after Gen Con. That's basically the whole how the year works in our industry. And now that I'm working with this on a daily basis, projects needs to be done before Gen Con, and then during Gen Con, there's no one emails each other about work because you're all in the same building and the same complex. So you kind of talk to each other
Yeah.
and yell and scream and run around, and then you come back home and the thing starts all over again. That's and it is amazing phenomena. So I can recommend anyone who hasn't been there, and if you play role playing games, you should go at least once in your life
I
because
read today that it had 70,000.
yeah, it was bigger
Yeah.
than ever, but it didn't really
Hmm.
feel like it because I think the convention centers seem to have gotten better, especially in the exhibit hall. They have widened the aisles. The last 2 years, the first 4 years, or like three years, first years I was there working in the booth, it was terrible. The aisles were so narrow that you have almost everywhere there's booth on both sides. So if you had people standing looking at things in one booth and then on the other side, you could barely get through in the middle, and that kind of clogged up the whole thing, and people got angry, and you literally talked to someone and they were swept away in the maelstrom of
Hmm.
things. They changed last year. They widened the aisles like a foot or so, and that did a lot to better it. And they also put in some sort of noise dampening, so it's the actual
Really?
noise levels in the hall is much better than they were 2, 3, 4 years ago. So it's not so much ringing
Uh,
in my head anymore. So it's so those two things kind of improved it significantly. And they got the Lucas Oil Stadium. I think it was the first
yeah.
time. Was it 2 years ago or last year? They had the first on the. I think it was 2 years
Yeah.
ago. They got Lucas Oil Stadium, and that also widen the footprint of the convention. So even if you have 10,000
Oh,
more people, the Lucas Oil Stadium is so big that you can easily just swallow
yeah.
5-6,000 people in there, and it's and there's
You're walking from one end of the con, the other is a
oh yeah,
mile.
yeah, oh yeah, it's more than a mile, I think. If
Yeah.
you take from the JW the furthest
Yeah.
reaches of their conference rooms and seminar halls and stuff over there to the Lucas Oil Stadium is well over a mile to walk on foot, and you
Mm.
can walk indoors from one end to the other.
Skywalk.
Yeah, so it's kind of amazing that way.
I used to hike that like regularly on,
Oh
during
yeah,
Gen.
yeah. I walked some days 5 times between
Yeah, I
JW
wish
and
I had
yeah.
wore a pedometer.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I I bet I was over 20,000 steps each day, easy.
It made me feel like I was back on a college campus trying to run
Yep.
to the right room
Yep.
for
Yep.
a seminar or something, because it
Yep.
was like, wow, all over
Mhm.
the place.
Yep.
But I was really impressed by how small the gaming rooms were for the RPG. When Carlos and I got in our room, there was only 4 tables, and we were in the Crown Plaza
Yeah, you were over
toys
the
wing.
the old train station, and that's a really good location. I think
I don't
it's
Yeah.
know if I've
neat.
gamed in there or not.
Yeah.
It was nice because only two of the tables were being used, so it was just us two and a Doctor Who role playing going on in the same room, and that was
Yep.
in 5e, a 5e Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yep.
it was pretty interesting. And they were all playing a Doctor, all 8 of them.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it was really, each of them played a separate incarnation of the Doctor. It was
Yep.
pretty neat.
And
Yeah.
the exhibit hall this year I didn't see that many direct Greyhawk references that way. So because there's no official products except Carlos, and that's kind of not official, but set in Greyhawk, and he didn't have a booth, but there was plenty of kind of indirect references and stuff. So yeah, so
Like,
I got a lot of vibes of people that are very active in the Greyhawk community and stuff. Were on place there, and some T-shirts. I saw someone had made some iUse T-shirt that was kind of
Oh,
really
what?
cool. Oh yeah, there were some people who had old stuff, and some people that made some iUse, and they just went
Okay, so
past
they
it.
weren't selling it.
No, they weren't selling. Someone had made some cool I
Yeah,
use
yeah.
something and just walked past. So there was this kind of cool little now and then kind of a reference that popped up. So,
Nebula wants to know if Wizards of the Coast was there.
Big
and not
time.
if yeah, oh yeah, they're there, but not officially. They only have
They've got a booth?
licensees. No, not they don't have an
They're running
official booth.
tournaments.
Exactly. The Adventures League is big. They were big over at JW. They had one of the biggest ballrooms over there. That is, if that's kind of a small to mid-sized convention in itself. Just the JW had probably 2,000 gamers easy, just gaming in there. They
One
had
of the
two.
things.
Yeah, they have four. They had 4 floors,
Oh,
two floors
dang.
with big ballrooms in them, and then they had a basement and 2 other small floors. So that was kind of half an Orcon or Strategicon just at JW, and that was the where the most of the Adventures League people held out, I think. So there was a lot of gaming going over there. Several thousand gamers were gaming in D&D over there. And then you
And-
had, oh, sorry, go on.
No, it's okay. And at that building, Mike, I participated in the most bizarre thing I've ever done in my life, and that was a live action role play Cthulhu. So
Yeah, yeah. And then you had in the exhibit
crazy stuff.
oh yeah, yeah. And in the exhibit hall there was no official Wizard of the Coast or D&D booth, but there were several of their licensees who had big D&D signs. For one is the Gale Force 9, for instance, who sells
Right.
plushies, miniatures, and licensed stuff. And they were the biggest one I saw with D&D stuff. There was
Yeah.
the Gale Force
I
9
was gonna
booth.
say the last couple of Gen Cons I went to, Gale Force had the Greyhawk minis. You know,
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, the collector's edition ones.
Right.
okay, cool. Yep, yep. So they had, and there you can find beholders and a whole bunch of other miniatures and stuff that kind of cool. So yep.
They just came out recently with oh my god, a Froggy Myth figure.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
It's really it's
Yep.
large.
Yep.
So they came up with some cool things,
Yep.
definitely. The biggest booth of all though was Anna. Why don't you? Who was the biggest booth?
Oh,
of
and
all you
Paizo.
saw?
Yeah,
Paizo.
Paizo
yeah.
is always
That's
they are
cool.
the biggest one of the. I think it's Paizo and it's oh, what's it called? The other one is Fantasy Flight. Those are
Yes.
the 2 biggest sponsors, and Paizo I think is the biggest. They have the by far I think it's twice the size of the second biggest booth, and it's huge. And this year it was bigger than ever since the launch of second edition, and they had. And they not only had the biggest booth in the exhibit hall, they have Saga Mall Ballroom that is the biggest gaming place in the whole con with over 2,000 gamers in one room.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and then they had on the second floor outside of the Saga Mall Ballroom, they had a big booth where they just sold second edition core rule books and monster and bestiaries, and they was the grab and go. That was the thing. So they only took cards, no cash. So you handed your card in one end, you took the books, gave them your card, they slide the card, and you ran off, so to speak. It was that simple. It was yeah.
I think GNA you just got on the show here. It's not that Wizards of the Coast doesn't have a presence, like they were saying. It's the gaming.
Yeah,
is
yeah. They don't
very-
have an official booth. There is no Wizard of the Coast booth, but they
I
have.
think
yeah.
the Wizards of the Coast as a booth in the exhibition hall started to slide when Paizo took over.
Yeah, yeah.
They were,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah. So
winning
you.
all the awards.
Yep, yeah. So you find Gale Force 9 were the biggest that showed the D&D flag
Who
in
else
the
had
exhibit hall.
theirs?
Yeah,
Who else
and
had D&D?
Yep, and then you have several others who also licensees of D&D stuff. So you had several game stores who sold the books and stuff who had their
Wow.
booths there too, and so they had the Ghost of Salt Marsh and stuff like that lined up and
Okay.
stuff. So
So
they were
they're
D&D
there,
present.
but
Yeah, exactly. They're there, but
outsourced.
no big official Wizard of the Coast booth. So
Right.
the presence of D&D is kind of subdued in a way. It's subverting a lot of the things. It's everywhere, but not big. Paizo, meaning Paizo has an enormous presence. They have probably about 10% or 15% of the whole exhibit hall is Paizo. So they have a huge presence that way.
Hey, Satori.
It was an experience for me.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
it's kind of overwhelming, and
Definitely. There's a
yeah.
lot of things I wouldn't do again that I did this time.
Ah,
In particular, I don't think I'd rent a car like I did.
ah,
I don't think I'd purchase the lot that I did because I barely used it because Uber and Lyft are the way to go now.
Yeah.
You can almost anywhere,
Yeah, that they have
so
this area outside the convention when it's
yeah,
full of everything from bicycle taxis to Ubers and Lyfts and taxis and everything. You just go out there and grab something and you can go
yeah,
anywhere. And the this time the where I noticed the bigger impact of Gen Con was at the restaurants. They were booked full, and they were full a mile away from the convention. So
yeah.
so it was like I went to the Ram, and we got in, and we walked to 5 restaurants before we find a place to sit, and a bar
And
stool that was within an hour. So it was, yeah, it was crazy active.
me and my friends used to camp on the Ram
Hmm.
Brewery, and we
Yeah,
get it every year.
yeah,
And I can't imagine not getting in there.
yeah. It was just crazy. And
but
oh, go on.
anytime Anna and I were out, we got a table right away.
Oh yeah, but we walked a little. We were a little bit. Yeah, we were a little. We probably
Oh,
scared off everybody else. So that was good. Yeah.
Oh,
So that
that's
that was
funny.
so when it comes to the actual convention, and I think it's really well run overall. It's kind of well run. Things work, and there was no big mishaps or anything like that. So it's kind of, yeah. And then so now we come to the thing that was the biggest Greyhawk thing this year. That wasn't
yes.
at the convention. It was actually a couple of miles away, and unfortunately I didn't make it there because I worked a lot in the booth and stuff. So I had a kind of very busy schedule. But Jay, you were at the Greyhawk Airbnb.
Yes, I stayed there along with from my group, DM Marco and his wife Tracy, and Nick and oh my gosh, my brain just went off. Nick and Andrew, who went there, and they were more into the magic. They got like custom foils signed by the
Yeah.
artists of Magic cards. They were into that,
Hmm.
but they were both playing Mark's game on Wednesday. So we had basically 2 rooms. Um, and there was a separate building. There was actually the main building, and there was a little side house. We were in the side house, and it's a learning curve living in a hostel as opposed to a nice, comfy hotel. But it was okay. It was fine.
Yeah,
We
I
had
bet you
a
had a
good
lot
time.
of fun playing games
Did and just hanging out and meeting people was really
mm-hmm.
cool, and met a lot of people. Like Tanith, who is from Britain, showed up. I mean, wow, what a commitment that is to fly that far.
Yep.
And Christoph was there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, Shane was there, and Bree was there, and Geek Dice and his daughter Stella Luna were there, and Josh and his fiance Monse were there. I mean, there was a lot of people, and a lot of people just hung out in late hours, and people would I don't know what time they were. I mean, I was like, I'm getting old here, so like 12:30, 1, 2.
Right.
That's my limit. But I
Yeah.
was hearing a lot of these people were up to 4, 5, 6 in the morning. Like, oh my gosh, I can't. If
Dang.
I wanted to be functioning the next day, I have to get
Yep.
some sleep.
Yep,
So
yeah, we getting old. So I went. The latest I was up was at two
yeah,
o'clock, and that was to hang out with some Paizo people and some other stuff, and talking about future projects and stuff. So it was part business and part fun. But the problem was that
awesome.
a lot of it is noisy as hell in some areas. So that's kind of the problem, is to find somewhere where it's not ringing in your head after a couple hours. So that was. But it was wonderful to hear that Greyhawk. If that thing had been, someone
Closer. It
had it,
should.
yeah,
I wish it.
closer,
Yeah, I
that it
don't
would
think
have
they
been
could have cornered
absolutely
close.
fantastic. Yep.
So please, there's 3 videos up. I just checked. There's Shane ran the first game. Shane ran the second game, and I ran on Saturday the third game in 1E2E tabletop mini style. So I hauled a box. I actually shipped it to Mark of all the terrain I needed. I had on my carry-on all the plastic figures. I took my rulers, my screen, my
Wow.
stratagem underlay, all in my carry-on bag. So I was like, yeah. So I brought all that stuff out with me, and I ran the game on Saturday, and Shane played in my game, which was really cool.
Good
And
on it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was fun. It was fun. He played Tabitha, the fighter, an elven fighter mage,
Oh.
4/3. She's in Earth Journal this month. That's the character I put in the NPC in the Earth Journal. He played that character.
Yep.
So, in the very first roll he rolled, he fumbled, and as everyone knows,
Yep, I
yes,
heard that fumble
he
story.
shot. Yeah, he shot someone. He shot the Geek's character in the first fumble. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
So I kind of had fun with that. It was great. It was a
Yep,
great time.
that's wonderful that we can that was some Greyhawk gaming actually being done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because there was no Greyhawk Reborn at this year's convention, if I understand it correctly. I'm not sure because yeah, I tried to f- to see, but I couldn't see because normally they are one of the gamers that hang out at one of the. Oh, see that.
That's
So,
great.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So turn out the lights on me.
Yep. So yeah, the Greyhawk Reborn has been hanging out at JW for some years, but they might have been around and I missed them. So that's the because it's so large and I was so. This is the first Gen Con I've been to that I've been both working in a booth 6 hours a day and then also I've had so many other projects that I wanted to correlate with and talk to, and also had my seminar and stuff like that then to prepare and fix things. So that kind of got me busy. Yeah, basically 24/7. So yeah.
I missed a ton of other streamers, and I don't know how. Like you figure you're gonna bump into someone. I met Jimmy Duffy, who's great.
Me
from
too.
Creators
Yeah,
Rejects,
he
but
came in.
He did.
Yes. Yep.
He came to your booth multiple times. Absolutely. I missed Legends of Adventurous completely. I missed Gratuitous RP completely. I'm none of them. I mean, I was a whole bunch of people I wanted to meet up with that I completely just whiffed on. But that's it. It's so huge. Everyone's so busy all the time. It's like, you got something going on. There's always conflicts. But it was.
And it's nowadays when you walk around, you meet people that you need to talk to almost continuously. It's just crazy that way. It's kind of.
I think most of the Gen Cons I went to, and I can't remember how many it is now, but it's like more than 7. After the first Gen Con, I like had my whole week planned out, and then when I realized I couldn't, like, there wasn't enough time in the day to do it all, then all the Gen Cons after that, I practically planned nothing. It was all just open time to meet people and get invited and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, Gary, that's a good question. We didn't have any formal get together because we had the Greyhawk Airbnb this year, so that was kind of the substitute. That's where all the Greyhawkers except me hung out. So I'm kind of I have to bear the shame of not making it over there. So that was the I should definitely have had. And if it's something I want to redo, is that I would have to take some time on and simply have gone there. So yep.
Well, there was a party scheduled for Saturday night, and then Shane had a kind of issue at home, and he left Saturday night on Sunday.
Yep.
So that kind of got nixed.
Yep.
And if you remember, Anna, when we were hanging out, you, me, and Christoph were hanging out Saturday night, I was exhausted at that point anyway.
Yeah.
Got on, and we went back to the. Oh, this is a funny story. We went back to the hostel, and I lost my room key.
Uh-oh.
I don't know where I lost it. I think I lost it at your presentation, which we haven't talked about yet. And I was like, how the hell am I going to get in here? And finally got in the room, but it's just like, this is all I need.
Oh. Oh yeah, that was I got two evenings to hang out with Jay and Marco and a whole bunch of others to move with that. That was fantastic. We got so many cool, and especially when Jay, when you and me and Christoph were kind of making plans and discussing future things. That was kind of a lot of cool ideas and stuff that we can.
There were some brews and some burgers. Just hung out the three of us and just were chatting up some Greyhawk planning there for the future. And just it went longer than I thought, and it was great. And time was like, oh my gosh, time's flying by that fast.
Yep.
And so it was awesome.
Yep. And welcome, Duane Costa. And thank you so much for joining my Patreon. Much appreciated. And that's a great comment that Greyhawk Reborn are at Origins.
Okay.
That's a convention I haven't been to yet, but it's on my list that I want to go next year, definitely.
A little farther.
Yep, but this year I will go to Game Hall Con and PAX probably, and I'm not not firmly committed to PAX yet, but Gamehall Con I will be at, because I'm one of the guests there that I've invited. So I will definitely be at Gamehall Con, and I will have a seminar at Gamehall Con as well, together with Alyssa. It's only 1 hour though. We asked for 2 hours, but apparently we only got 1 hour slot, so that will be kind of a quickie.
That's quick.
Yeah, because we had, well, so we segue a little bit into my seminar.
Absolutely.
And we had I had a 2 hours slot, and that was actually needed because we filled it. There was not a lot of dead silence that we didn't know what to say. So I can babble forever, and there was a lot of wonderful questions being asked. So yeah, so the seminar was kind of it had a kind of a funny backstory, because Gen Con gave us a lounge, and on the map it looked really cool. It was kind of a hidden nook way out in the corner that looked like a little seminar room, but it was actually just a part of the lobby with some couches. That was it. And
Huh.
and if you had 40 people there, that meant that half of them was sitting on the floor, and the other half of the other ones that actually got room in the couches would sit with the head away from whatever direction, because they were spread out in all directions. And we had asked for a room that we can actually use a projector, and there was skylights all over the place. For the Hyatt has like a glass thing. It's like a building built around. It's like an old castle. It's built around a courtyard that is glassed over. So it was on in this courtyard. So it was ridiculous. But thanks to Christoph at Gryffindor Games, he managed to rent another conference room, that one of the few that miraculously hadn't been rented by Gen Con. So we got that room. And then we had a bit of a projector issue and stuff that we kind of solved so and so. So the projector wasn't good, but it was barely acceptable. So I'm so sorry to everyone who went there, because the projector wasn't that good. But at least it was bearable. So people got to see what it looked like.
Yeah, it made your dark green forest look black. That was the only thing I noticed. Really.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah. So
else
it was
pretty good.
yeah, it was it was not really color corrected, or it was not that good, and
Yeah.
the screen wasn't the best in the world either. So
Uh,
yeah.
You got the point across, though.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but it was an awesome way, because there was almost 70, there were 80 chairs in there, and I think it was like 15, so it was like probably about 70 people in there to begin with, and probably 4 or 5 left before the 2 hours were at end, so at the end. So and some people came late. They came like 10, 15 minutes in, so yeah. That's perfect.
I was finishing my game at the Greyhawk Hostel and had to go
Yeah.
6 miles. So
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So you missed the when I just presented myself. That was the
But
only thing.
as we were getting there, myself, Christoph, and Josh, we were going up the escalator, and Satine Phoenix was coming down the escalator on the other way.
Oh, mm-hmm.
So we
See?
got to meet her real
Yep.
quick. So
Yep.
lateness sometimes was lucky. So
Yep.
absolutely.
So yeah, so the seminar was basically 3 parts. The first part was me bragging about all the stuff I've done, showing examples of Midgard, Greyhawk, and a bunch of stuff that normally are not that known. So let's see here. I have the slides here. So let's see. We can basically go through the slides here, so we do a little bit of a hang on a second here. We should. Here we go. See if I can. Yeah, we can see if we can do the image
for
screen. Yeah, so here we go. So the first, now this is just the entry slide. So the first slide, I've simply just presented what we used to. I talked about the Greyhawk map and the fact that I worked on it for 20 years, and this is the latest incarnation of it. So and the next thing that I talked about for almost 10 minutes, and then that's the most kind of important. That is the Creative Commons. So I had the Creative Commons thing for about I'm going to change. Hang on a second here. I'm just going to do the uproot the. First, I'm going to kill off that, and then I'm going to put that in like this. So we had a good. Yeah, so I talked about almost for 10 minutes about Creative Commons, and I think that's one of the key things that I think we can spend a little bit of time here too, is to talk why I chose it and what's the points with it. So there are 2 main reasons. One is that I can't sell the maps because that will violate the Wizard of the Coast fan creation policy. So I basically have to give it away. And I also want to make sure that others can't earn money on it, because I want the maps to be share adapted. So anyone can download my map, make their own version, and share that one without asking me for permission. And so you can make your own version of it, and you can adapt it and change it, like Jay has for their campaign, the Knights of Ulik. There is a special version, and meaning Jay can just tweak his version of the map and share that on his stream, on his website, whatever. The only thing you're not allowed to do is not allowed to sell it, and you're also not allowed to change it. It needs to be shared and during using the same license. So you're not allowed to put it behind a paywall. And the reason for that is not so much that I would come after someone. It's because I want to protect others from the wrath of Wizard of the Coast, because I want others to follow the fan creation policy as well, which is not the easiest, but I try to as much as possible. And I also want them to credit me for doing done the original map, so to speak, or the original version of this map. So that's basically the gist of the Creative Commons, the BY NC-SA. And BY, that means that you can simply, you have to say that it's the you can share it, you can adapt and whatever. The non-commercial thing means that you cannot earn money on it, and the SA means share alike. So there are different versions of the Creative Commons. So
That's a good question.
Oh, okay.
Tori wants to know if it's possible to do a translation for your maps. How hard would that be for someone to do?
It will be probably as hard as it will be to do any version, because the source file, the Illustrator file that my map is based on, you can download that one from my website. So anyone who wants to make their own version can actually download, because all the source material that I use for the map is actually available on my website for free. So you can just download it and make your own version. So the names you want to translate, the problem is that the file has so many names in it that you actually have to type in the new names, because I actually converted all the text into outlines. But that's more of a technical issue. So it's just to make it work, because otherwise almost not even a graphical workstation is beefy enough to handle. There's thousands of names on the map, and various other symbols and lines and stuff. So that's why I had to make them into outlines. And the other reason to make them into outlines is that when you to create a PDF, you will have no font issues. So no matter what the fonts on the system, the map will look the same all the time. So those are the two reasons. And also there is a font list you can download as well, where you can see what fonts I'm using, and most of them are available for free on various font websites. So this was one thing that I kind of explained, because I want my map to be used, and my Greyhawk maps to be used by others in their games and changed and tweaked and whatnot. That's the whole idea. And then I kind of talked a little bit about the different formats of the map, that it's available as an atlas that is 11 by 17, and also that is available in realm maps. So I simply cut up the big map into 250 something small pieces. So every land, every forest, every lake, every part of oceans and highlands and mountains and stuff are on small little JPEGs, so you can put them on a website, in a campaign manager and stuff like that. So those are two different formats, and there are other formats too, but I took these as an example, so to speak. And also there are different styles. So example, there's like these parchment styles, and there's like it's on a rock wall and stuff like that.
I think it would be cool to hand out the parchment style in a game to your players.
Yep.
I haven't done it yet because I put all your maps right up on my stream. So but in an old home game, it would be a fantastic thing to do.
Yep.
Just so that it would be, oh wow, and maybe put it on that parchment paper too. I think it would look really cool. Definitely.
Yeah, And that's yeah. Thank you so much for Satori 2046. So yeah, you can download it and tweak it and do whatever. The thing is that you need Illustrator to do it, unfortunately. So, but if you have that, you can just download it and get it. And yeah, Gary, you have the question: is it legal for to send a map to a large format printing house? I would, for personal use, yes. I would say yes, because I don't think anyone can say against it, because it's download and you can use it for your own game group. If you print it and hang it on the wall, you're not allowed to sell the print, but you can definitely print it and hang it on your wall that way. So that's certainly, I have nothing against it, so to speak. So that's perfectly fine to do it.
I
I
need
will
100 copies for personal use.
then you start saying it. If you have a big house and you want to have one in each room, then yeah. But
Sure.
I can't go and print 5,000 maps and sell it for $100 each or something like that on my website. That would no. So that's one of the main reasons that there's two reasons I don't do prints. One, other than I've done one print that I test printed, and I gave that one away to the Greyhawk Reborn people. And I might do another print down the line to have in a booth and show at conventions and stuff. But one of the reasons that I don't do prints is that I'm not allowed to sell them. That's one reason. The other reason is that I don't use them for my own game, because the map change from session to session. So for me, it's a pure digital thing that evolves as the campaign evolves. So that's why I don't. To me, it would might make much more sense to buy a big screen TV, a 4K TV, and display it there, because that way it's about the same price. If you're going to print the map in full scale, meaning 110 or 5 by 6 feet or something like that, it's 116 inches by 110. So it's about 4 or 5 feet. So it's so large that it will cost, if you print it in full size in good quality, we're talking $1,000 or something like that, 800 to 1,000, and you get a decent 4K TV for that price, and then you can show anything on it. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I'll go to buy a really good projector, or I will buy a TV instead of print the map. So that's the
technology.
Yep. So those are the main reason. But if I continue, so the next thing I showed at the seminar was the spread maps, and talk a little bit about them, that you can actually download this. It's a layered Photoshop file, and you download it, and then you can use it to show where the spread of IUs, or where elves live, or where the good people live, or where elephants roam, or whatever. So you can simply put it in, and there are masks for oceans and for land and water, so you can easily tweak it. So yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know if Kinko's is around anymore.
And
I'm not sure.
No, me neither. I'm not sure either. Yeah.
That came from the ever mysterious Tim, by the way.
Ah, okay.
Tim has hopped on, and yes.
Cool. Yep. So then I showed a little bit of other stuff, so I can just go through it quickly, because it's kind of out of the scope for Legends and Lore, but we can go over it a little bit quick to see, because this is kind of a resume of my presentation. So this is the part of this seminar where I bragged about stuff that I've done. So the next is Midgard for Kobo Press. So this is an image of Midgard that is taken from space, so to speak. So you can actually see the whole land laid out. So I use that as a backdrop. And then I showed Southlands, and this is kind of a preview. This is the second time this has been shown in public. This is the latest update of the Southland map that is not public yet. And on the right hand here is the combined Midgard and Southlands. So it's coming out. I'm working on the final touches on this one. And then we have the Midgard map, and we have my only published city map, Per Bastet, for the Southlands.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, so that's the only city map that I've done. And it was I haven't done the city design. That was actually done by someone else, had a sketch of what the city should look like. So I actually made the terrain in World Machine. So if you zoom in on the whole Southland world terrain, this terrain is actually there. So you can actually, I made a bunch of other images, but I didn't show them on. And I made 3D statues and stuff like that. These pillars out here are 3D as well. So it's kind
Ah,
of,
I like the style of it, Anna. It looks cool.
yeah, it was a quick and dirty job in Photoshop
Yeah.
because these are just styled layers because I didn't have that much time. I had worked on the big map, and this was something that I was asked, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "I'll have a go at it," and
Are,
I did it.
are those stones out in the water? What is
Yep,
that
these
out
are
in the?
kind of obelisks, like pillars that are
Oh,
out in the
cool.
river. Yep. And here, if we zoom in here, you can see these are big statues, and they continue down south. This is just a small part of the image. The city map is like 4 times larger than this,
Nice.
and there's a whole bunch of other stuff around it. So, yep. So,
Cool.
so that was something, and then I showed the political map, and this is something you can do with the spread map for the Flanese, but I did it for the there is a published map of the Midgard area, but I'm working on the Southlands as well. So this is coming to, so the eventual, if there are any Midgard fans, not that many on this show, I think, but this is coming too. So yeah. And then it's my latest published map, the Fallen Barony of Wailmore for Gryffindor Games. They were the ones that set the seminar up, so I had to kind of promote them a bit extra.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and I work a lot with them now, so doing maps and stuff for them. So it's kind of it's part of my daily gig now to work for Gryffindor, and it's kind of fun. So this one, technically, it's my best map so far. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, so it has the latest advanced technique, so to speak, and workflow in it. So this one, the same technique I used for this one will be used for Lendor, Isles, and Ratik, and a whole bunch of other stuff coming
Oh,
later on
yeah.
here. So, and then I did my only published encounter maps were for Zombie Sky Press. A guy named Scott Gable, he did a book about fairies that was kickstarted that was very successful. I think it was 2 years ago, and he approached me and said, "Oh, can you do some cool little encounter areas?" So I did. I think it was 4 or 5 of them. I don't know how many actually made it into the book because don't think I've seen the book. Or maybe I have the book, but I'm not sure. But they turned out really well. So I was kind of pleased because that was my first foray into. It took a while though. The people that are cartographers that know how to do this, they can do it in 4 times faster than I can, but
Hmm.
the results are professional. I'm really pleased with how they came out. It took a while though because you have to have brushes and setups and stuff that so it took a while, but I'm really pleased with the results. They turned out really cool. So, and then I did for Alex Kammer, that's going to be presented at GameholeCon. I did a map of the Eastern Marshes, and one of the cool things, this was the first kind of really wintry landscape that kind of goes in
I
northern
like that one.
temperate. Yep. So this one is the top 1/4 or so of the map, and it's a bigger game setting. I haven't read the book. I have no clue what this is really about, more than all the sketches and stuff that was given to me. That's some of the things that I talked about in the seminar. That is kind of a curse that often you do the map before the book or whatever you mapping is actually written. So sometimes you have to read a non-edited, non-fully written Google Doc or something. So you often kind of have to yeah, so you're not working with the finished thing, and often it goes back and forth. So when you do the map, the writers see some of the things I've done and they tweak the text and vice versa. So it's a bit back and forth. And then I did a map for Hans Cummings. He's writing fantasy and some sci-fi books. I think he's awesome. I always have dinner with him and Maria, his wife, at each Gen Con. That's one of my traditions. And this map is done in full color from the get-go. But one of the reasons I wanted to show the black and white was that to say to anyone who wants to go in and do this professionally is that you always have to have in the back of your head, how can I convert something into grayscale, to black and white, to different sizes and stuff? So, meaning you have to have a grasp not only of the cartography, but you also have to know your format sizes, bit depths, resolutions, color depths, all the image things, so to speak. You have to know computer imaging, Photoshop, and stuff like that. So yeah, so there is a whole technical field that has very little to do with cartography that you also have to master, because when someone say, oh, it's going to be printed doing CMYK, so and so, blah blah, you have to be able to understand what that is, and you have
I
to
was
convert
about
it.
4 years into my Greyhawk comic. I was doing it in grayscale.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, yeah, I should have done this in color. And
Yeah.
then just changed it to grayscale.
Yep.
Then I did two versions of it. But
Yep. Yep.
it
So
was,
you often have to think about a lot of these things. So then what I did here is that you convert the background terrain by itself, and then you shift all the text and stuff manually afterwards in order to get it right. So it's a lot of issues. And this was to be printed in a pocketbook in grayscale and minimized and printed. And it turned out fairly good. This is from my original, not from the photography of the book, but actually the book looked kind of decent that way. So that's the, yeah, I wish there was just a grayscale button. There is one, but the problem is it really automatic doesn't work that well. So yeah. So and then we had one I did for Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and I showed this one just because sometimes you just get something quick and dirty, and James Raggy, the CEO of Lamentations of the Flame Princess, reached out. This is like 5 years ago or something, I think 4 or 5 years ago. I think it's 5 years ago now, and he reached out to me and he said that his cartographer had kind of bailed or didn't produce or something, and I had a week and never read the module or whatever. So I just quick and dirty in Photoshop, and I just I basically took pieces of my Greyhawk map and just painted it in and adjusted and slammed in the text, and it was a quick and dirty. I'm not particularly proud of it, but just for less than a week.
You would notice that. You see, I think you have a distinctive style. Like I can see when I see a Rob Lazzaretti map or a Mark Schley map, I know it's their style.
Yeah.
And so I think you have a style too. So when you say you just threw it together, no one will notice, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's the and thank you, Gary. So yeah. So sometimes you just have to do it quickly. It's one thing when you do things for your own campaign, and when I do Greyhawk, then I sit and doodle forever until it's good, and I think it's perfect. But when it's going to publishing and you have a week, you just have to run with it, and you also have to do it to specifications to someone else's taste, and so this one. But it's just to prove that when you do it professionally, it's not what you like, it's what your client like, what the end customer likes, so to speak. That's the, yeah. So you just have to, so this is most of that map, so to speak. But it's kind of fun because back then Lamentations of the Flame Princess wasn't that popular. Then it's become huge comparatively, so it's kind of funny. I think it was for a free RPG day module or something like that. So it was actually going out all over the world. So it was kind of cool that way. And then comes the next part of my presentation when I talked a bit about different purpose of a map, and that maps look different depending on what purpose, and what should a game map look like for DMs, for players and stuff, depending on what uses a map have. And one of the first example I have is the information versus inspiration kind of scale. And one of the examples I took is this is a map of a Swedish zoo. I took a Swedish one because that way they will not come out and sue me. So if I use that map, so I took a Swedish map. This is a Swedish zoo, and here it looked like the zoo looks like on Google Earth or Google Maps, and here it's what their brochure and their information sign look like. And the left one is it's kind of a good example of an information map, meaning it will tell you exactly, easily labeled and easily to find the spots. You can see the distances, you can see exactly what road to take. So if you're going to have a little car and go around an area, that's the kind of map you want to have. But if you run a zoo, you want to lure everyone to go and visit every attraction. You don't want to tell them that it's like over a hill and 4 miles away. You just want to show them there's a cool thing just over there. Yeah. So you want to, so when you go to theme parks, zoos and stuff like that, they just have cool maps that look cool because they want you to lure you in. And so that kind of a real life example of an inspirational map rather than informational, because they almost want to obscure reality to tell you it's cool, it's awesome, you should go around the whole thing. And then versus the maps that you find in your car when you navigate around, that just give you simple, easy instructions to get you from point A to point B. It doesn't want to inspire you to go anywhere. It just wants to tell you the information of going from A to B. And in gaming, we have examples of both. Remember that back in the day, the old school adventures where they have dungeon maps that were printed in blue? They were often very simple. You just have the simple squares, and there were secret doors, and there were normal doors, and there were stairs. Basically, that was it. So that's kind of an example of the information gaming map that just shows you the absolute basic. And the reason they were blue was that so they couldn't be photocopied back in the day. And then the funny thing is, I think there's still one publisher that still publish blue maps simply because they became a phenomena in itself, the blue maps. So that was it. And then we have the inspirational maps that are the cool maps by Lazaretti, Elissa Faden, by Jonathan Roberts, and all the that look like fantastic paintings and stuff. So but here I wanted to take a real life example to see that the same thing can be shown in many different ways. And now I want to do the same thing for Greyhawk. So here we have Darlene, meaning the classical view of Greyhawk. So yeah, you're right, Gary. We've seen the blue maps. The today 20-year-olds, they have no clue what we're talking about when we talk about the blue maps. But if you're old enough, you know what the blue maps are. And they're almost the color of my t-shirt here. So yeah, my top. But so here is the Darlene, the classic Darlene that kind of became the mainstay, or that was the original fantasy cartography for role-playing games. It was probably the first big setting map that was ever done for role-playing game setting. And so this is her rendering of the Greyhawk area. And now I've done some experimenting. What if we had this area rendered for Road Atlas? If Rand McNally had made the Greyhawk, the area around Greyhawk, what would it look like? It would probably look something like this. So here it's the area around Greyhawk in modern Road Atlas style. So the same information roughly, and just present it. And there's some, let's zoom in, there's some cool things that here we can see that I just put in some funny. There's like DL meaning Dragon Lair, and instead of airports and stuff. So
I feel so familiar and comfortable with that map.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun, and you can see the conditions of the roads, and they have numbers. So you have like the S1 and Silinton 1, and you have D1, and so I just named them. It's all funny and jokey, but it's just to get people to think, meaning you can present things very differently. So if Greyhawk was actually a place that we were going to drive across or over, this is the kind of map you will probably get to do it. And then I created another example. What if the Greyhawk area was an area airline pilots were supposed to fly over? Then the map would look something like this. This is the Greyhawk area presented as a flight chart that are used by airline pilots. Meaning you don't want to know anything about the terrain, because that's not interesting. You're just basically interested in what's water and you have these kind of terminal areas where you have various restrictions. And for fun, I put the alignments instead of elevations in here just play with it. And then you have a no-fly zone over Nulb and the TOEE restriction zone.
Those who don't know, Anna's a pilot.
I used to be. I've done a lot of aviation and stuff over the years. So I just put it. This is a mock caricature of a flight chart that it done. So it's kind of funny that way. And these are landing strips and stuff like that. So it's kind of
coming in for landing.
Yeah. So it's just the and here you have the mist marches, a little wet area over here and stuff. So the reason you put wet areas instead of and dry areas, it's so the pilots know that they can ditch there and do a water landing and stuff. So it's a little bit. And then you have these kind of areas here that are report points where you can have calls, so you can say that you're at 2 Ford and you can tell the ATIS that you're there, and they know exactly where you are. So it's kind of funny. So it's kind of just a way to show that you can actually present information in many different ways depending on what purpose it is. And so back to the fantasy world. So here is my take on doing the same thing. So I tried to marry the old Darlene style to some degree, but I also wanted to jam in as much useful information as possible and also make it inspirational, meaning you can this is the map that the DM should use as a reference for running the game, for planning the game, prepare it, and so on, meaning they should a DM can figure out where do the orcs do their ambush and what is the landscape look like when they take the road from Ford Keep over to Maraven and then to Divers. And you can tell the what the road conditions are, you can tell what rivers they go across, etc., etc. There is like a myriad of information. And I made the example, let's zoom out here again. So I showed them the here's the set of symbols. This is not all, most of the symbols and stuff I use. And I talked a little bit at the seminar about borders, for instance. In the real world, borders is you're in one country or you're in another country. In a fantasy world, it's probably not that clear cut. So I had a lot of borders that were poorly defined borders, like a forest on one side of the forest is one country, on the other side of the forest 30 miles away is another country, and in between it's kind of no man's land or both, depending on. And then you have the well-defined borders like a river or a wall or something, and then we have peaceful borders and hostile borders, and we have frontier borders, meaning there is civilization on one side and simply just wilderness on the other side, meaning if you scream for help on the wrong on the other side of that frontier border just means that there are more orcs and dragons or whatever finding you, and so don't scream for help. That's where stealth is probably more needed. So I talked a little bit
Just
about
run.
these examples of borders, and the same thing goes with roads. And I use roads and trails on my map, especially not so much on the published map, but on my campaign map I have trails. And roads are wide enough so you can have a wagon on it, so to speak. And trails meaning you can only walk on them or use a horse. That's my
Yeah.
personal distinction between trails and
I love
roads.
them. I love them in my Pomarge area that you
Yeah.
did for me. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. It really signifies what kind of movement you're going to get on those
Never-
roads.
Exactly. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. So you have primary roads are well maintained and blah blah, and there's a text on it and how they're patrolled and stuff. So you can kind of figure out things. The same thing with sea lanes. There's major sea lanes with that boats are big enough so they can take your mounts and stuff like that. And then there's the minor sea lanes where it's they're not on the screen here, but that's the other one. Where I simply say you can charter a boat and go with it, but the boats are normally not so big. They're only big enough that they can take people and their backpacks and stuff. But it's like a small little yachty thing. But the major sea lanes, meaning the ships are so big that they take cargo and mounts, and you can bring your horses and stuff on it. So. And they go ocean side, but the minor ones they hug the coast or go across lakes and stuff. But the big lakes like near Div and stuff are probably big enough that they can have ocean going boats too. So that was a short, and then we didn't talk much about I just mentioned a few that there you can see if a city or town is fortified, etc. So yeah. So and then we have then I showed there's different version on my map too. So this is kind of the imagine you have the king of Foriundi or the mayor of Greyhawk and other important rich people in the world of Greyhawk. If they have a map on their throne room or in their office, this is the map they will have, a map like this. Meaning it's like printed on a canvas or painted on a canvas, hand painted, and it will look something like this.
Hand draw a Greyhawk map on canvas. It's
yeah.
not easy.
Exactly. So this is a fake one, but I think it's kind of cool. It fits the perfect.
Oh, yeah.
So meaning if the characters went to a big city and paid a handsome amount of gold, this is the kind of map they will get for if they paid many thousands of gold pieces and had contacts. This is the kind of map I will give them as a DM. They will get this map and maybe only a small area, so to speak. So this is the kind of in-game map prop that little bit, and it can be aged or this is a fairly fresh one, so to speak. And then we have the next one here. This is a map that I made if they find a map that is kind of obscure. Let's say they find a map that is in Old Bakloonish and they can't read it. or the characters can't read at all, they would get a map like this. So they can maybe decipher some of the big ones, but all the other ones are kind of obscure. They can see that it's text there, but they can't really understand it. Then, so this is the kind of map I would provide to the players if the characters find a map that is kind of in a weird language or obscure. Maybe the orcs made kind of a cool experiment that way. It's a way of mocking with them a bit. And here is a player version of the canvas map that they can have and take notes and stuff on. So I made player versions. These are all based on my handout maps that you can download on my website too. So they're part of it. And
cool.
Here is the player version of this kind of map I use to show the players where they are. So I use a fog of war, and the players, if they are starting Greyhawk City and start walking towards Hardby, they will follow the road here and they will see what the landscape looked like. And this map has all the things that the characters will automatically see if they wander through, meaning they see things that are village size or bigger, and all the roads are on the map. Small trails are not on the map, dragons' lairs are not on the map, small tiny keeps and things that will be in a forest that you can walk 100 yards past them and you will miss them. They are not on the map. And no labels are on the map. So this is kind of the player version of my regular map.
I was going to ask a joke. Is the Doom Grinder on the map? But I
don't think exactly. I don't think I have the Doom Grinder because it's supposed to kind of move, so to speak.
Doom Grinder makes its own road.
Yeah,
exactly.
and it's certainly not on this map because this is only the. And then I have another example. This is exactly the same map, but without the hexes. And then we had a little bit of discussion about where I talked about the controversy with hex sizes in the world of Greyhawk. Because on Darlene map, there's 30-mile hexes. And there's a substitute of Greyhawk players that always want 30-mile hexes. And to me, it's a little bit ridiculous because 12-mile hexes made much more sense because the overland movement rate in almost every edition of D&D is based on 12 or 25 miles. So a character can walk. You can explore one hex a day, or you can walk across two.
Right.
So, or if you go really quickly, so to
Takes
speak.
you 2 days across a Darlene hex.
Yeah. So it's kind of depending on so 12-mile hexes they used it in Pathfinder in 3.5, so that's why I chose that size, because when I started the map it was 3.5 and then Pathfinder just kept using the 3.5 standard, so that was the
Have you ever used leagues?
No, not really on the map, but it's kind of cool to use in game. So when we play, when they ask for directions, I often give them in leagues because I think it's kind of cool that way. And yeah, so I invented some local lengths and stuff. So they simply say, well, it's as far as that, or it's like 4 city journeys, because they always went to Lakish or whatever city it was, or to Reldevon, so they only say, oh, it's like only 3 city walks and city hikes or city journeys, and because that's the city they went to, so the characters have to figure that out themselves. So it's kind of Cool. And my next part of the seminar was the anatomy of a 3D map. So here is a bunch of different data layers, and so I kind of went through how a 3D map is done. So I talked
like the guts of your map.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I talked a little bit about all the tools I'm using. So here, I'm not going to dig into that because this is probably not the audience. So I use World Machine View, Gaia, Photoshop, Illustrator, and Quad Spinner.
I asked what you use.
Yeah, so these are these are my main tools. I use a half a dozen other ones, but these are the main ones that do most of the heavy lifting. So then, and some of them are moving from World Machine into Gaia. So Gaia is the future tool, and World Machine is the current and past tool. So yeah, and so this is I took this map as an example. This is the Kingdom of Lothmar map that I'm working on for Gryffindor Games. So I took this map, and this is kind of a work in the work in progress. But this is what the map, a part of what it should look like, a part of the map. Right. So the whole thing starts with 3D programming, and it's basically done in visual form. So these white strings are the data flow, and so instead of writing code, you do it visually. So you create these little things here, and that's basically fractal algorithms to create mountains and the recipe for mountains and stuff. So that's how it starts. It starts with 3D programming. So that's the first step, and then you take and here are different recipes for different terrain types. And then you introduce various coastline erosion, you put in rivers and lakes, and then you put in a little bit of texturing, and then you output all the data. So the red things here are all the final data pieces, from elevation to various erosion and masks and stuff. So that's this simple setup. That's a setup for this map. And
Wow.
yeah, and this is what it looks like when you work inside World Machine. So you sit here and I say that I want to have a river flows from this lake down here into here, and then you set up called a spline, a line where it's like a vector line, and each of these nodes you go in here and you set the elevation of the node, and you set the fall off distance, meaning how wide is the river, and so on. So you have all these kind of things. So if you look up here, you have things like coastal erosion, rivers, lakes, tweaks, terrain type 1, terrain type 2, lake and river input mask, all terrain mask. The more map is a part that I did earlier, and you have augmentations like terracing and all sorts of stuff, another terrain recipe, and so on and so forth. So it's a whole bunch of, and you can simply add more features, and then you program it by putting areas or splines in here, and then you sit manually and adjust them. So yeah, so that's how you create the terrain, and then you can look at it as a 3D preview like this, and you can actually see it. And there's a bit glitchy because there's some weird artifacts here and there. So yeah. Well, yeah, there will be a quiz next week, Gary. Yeah, that's exactly very true. Yeah. So this is what it looks like that far, and then once you set up and done the 3D topography, you start exporting the data out from you do a render that can take from a few hours to a couple of days, and you render the area in the resolution, and this creates a bunch of data, and most of the data are presented in grayscale. This is the elevation, the height map, and this is simply the elevation of the area in grayscale. So the wider the brighter the area, the higher the elevation. So you can see the mountains here, and you can see the coastline here is the darkest. So this is one type of data. You have elevation map, and then you have the texture. This is a very simple texture. Sometimes I can export up to 20 or 30 different textures that I blend and work with in Photoshop afterwards. But in this case I wanted simple, so I just created them. You can see the mountains here, different colors and stuff like that. And then you have the shading. And the shading is simply a grayscale image that just looks like the sun is shining over the mountains. And this is a key bit to make it look 3D in Photoshop. It's only needed if you when you just use Photoshop to create the top-down view. Otherwise, you can render it in 3D and you don't need it. So you don't need it. But it's great to make quick maps in Photoshop and top-down views. And then you have various masks, and this is the coastline water mask. So everything water is white and land is black. So this is the main rivers, lakes, and coastline. And what you use this for is in Photoshop, so you can, if you just want to paint on the textures and you don't want to paint on the water, then you use this mask. Or this mask you use when you want to paint on the water, not the land, and you can just reverse it if you want to paint on land instead of water. Let's see, yeah, we have a few more minutes here, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. We at the seminar at Gen Con, we actually talked more on each of them. So, and then you have,
So you had your seminar?
about 65 or something like that people were
And
there.
there was a lot of questions too.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of questions. We had 2 hours. I basically do this in twice the speed now that from compared to or 3 times the speed that we did because here we have like 45 minutes and there we have about 2 hours to do the same thing. And here is an example of, this is a slope mask. So the wider, the steeper the angle, and they have mask for erosion, flatness, ruggedness, slope, height, yeah, various. There is like 5 types of erosion and stuff like that. So there's, I think there's like 26 or 30 masks all in all that I export. And then
That
I
looks like
export. Yeah.
something you'd see under an electron microscope.
Yeah. Yep. So and then I export this. This is just elevation coloring, but it makes it a lot easier to see things quickly in Photoshop, so you can easily get a chance to adjust it, so to speak. And then I import all of that into Photoshop and start working. I paint forest, I paint on the textures, and I get a myriad of layers. You can see them here. They have masks up here, and I have a whole bunch of layers that I create, and I tweak and work with it, and you get more and more layers, and you just keep slugging it away and do it. And now I'm going to quickly show what it looks like when you use masks. So here you use the elevation mask, and I put a signal color. I put these kind of very sharp, unnatural signal colors. So here I can easily see that I can paint this area, the mountaintops here, for instance. They are completely visible, meaning if I paint on it, I will get full effect here, but if I take down here, there will be no effect whatsoever. So this is way I can quickly see, and I can tweak the masks to simply say I want to paint on everything that is above a certain level, and for instance I want to paint snowy peaks. I can easily use the elevation mask, and often I combine masks. So I combine erosion masks with elevation or with slope and stuff, and you build whatever area you want to affect, like snow accumulates above a certain elevation when the slope is not, when it's not too steep and it's not too rough, and then it flows down the valleys to lower altitude. So then you create a mask that kind of does that, and then you paint in the white snow. So you can have, this is example of one mask, and then you can combine several masks. Here I have an elevation mask, and I have a mask for flow lines that I can create small rivers and stuff. So I can see all the blue areas here are potential rivers.
Wow.
And then I can simply mask out the ones I want to use as rivers and small creeks. Yeah, so I call this my creek mask, my creek data. And then I can simply paint in the creeks I want. And here, for instance, are a creek that ends in nowhere, so I skip that one. But here are perfect ones because they flow down towards the lake here. And here are some ones up here, so I will use them, so to speak, and then simply mask out the other ones and paint them away.
Amazing.
So that's how it's done the Photoshop way, so to speak. And after that, here are the final layers, that are needed in order to build a map. So it starts with the base color, and so I do the base color is in this case I just use a basic green bluish that is the base for the water. But sometimes you want to have you can vary this color around over the course, so you can have like swampy brown water, you can have crystal clear blue water. It's not really done, so I can paint on these colors, so I give different waters get different color differently, which kind of looks cool and natural, so to speak. And then above that I put in the basic texture, and now I just need to make sure that so there we go, so I don't get a lot of other windows on top of it. So here we have the oh yeah, there was me screwing things up a bit here, so hopefully it disappears quickly. That will happen when you have many monitors and lots of windows and stuff. So then I put the texture on top of it, and this is not the final one, but it's good enough that we can kind of see the purpose of it. And then I put the water, the depth of water, so I can make water that are deeper gets actually darker, and you can tweak it back and forth. And you add some of these little creeks and stuff here. They're not completely finished, but it's just to show what it works, how it works. And then I add snowy mountains, so the tall mountains, and you get flow lines down here with snow. And the next is forest, and in this case I actually painted forest manually in. I use masks to tell that trees only grow up to a certain elevation, and they don't grow when it's steep enough, and they don't grow over watery areas, etc. So I simply create a layer saying that, a mask saying that these are areas where it's possible for trees to grow, and then I just paint them in manually within that area, so I don't have to worry about it. I can just paint very quickly and dirty and still don't get trees on top of the lake, etc. And so then I create because when I do it manually, I can actually tweak the color and get more of a natural spread, and I can also put them exactly where I want them. So then that's the next step, and the step after that is put in the shading, and then I blend in the shading, that gray shading map that we looked before, but I put it in as a blending mode is multiply, so it's the shades just darken the landscape. The problem is that the gray darkens the whole thing like 20% or like 50%. So then I put an adjustment layer that I put on top of it, and voila, the map is done, so to speak. And then I take that into Illustrator and put the roads and the symbols and the text and stuff like that on top of it. So this way you can actually paint without changing the shading is on top of it, so you can actually paint the texture without disturbing the forest, etc. So this is, and when you zoom in, you can see it's fair amount of detail. This is not, there will be a little bit higher resolution in the final image, so it's about halfway done. This map is roughly halfway. There will be a bit more detail here and there, but it's a kind of cool way of doing it. So yeah. So that was the next, and then you can look at, here's the terrain put back into a 3D software, so you can actually see it's actually a 3D terrain. So I used the texture and all that I painted in Photoshop with the height map, and then you can combine them and you get an actual 3D image that you can look at and see that makes sense. And here's from another angle, and here you can look at that lake that we looked at, and here's are the mountains. There you can see that the rivers actually flow downhill as they're supposed to, and that's one of the tricky bits. So you can actually see that it flow downhill from here, and that needs to be edited because there's way too much blue blob here. It should just be some rivers because it's not flat, but the lake here, it's actually flat, and so it's a lot of issues that way. So yeah. Hi Josh, good to see you again. It was great seeing you at the convention, and also to Real Taco Turtle. Good to see you again. Thank you so much for being at my seminar. So that was great.
I got a question, dude.
Yeah.
Was there any more on the seminar?
Yeah, there were a whole bunch. I had a bunch of my patrons were there, so a bunch of Greyhawk fans and stuff that was on there. We chatted a little bit afterwards. So yeah, but a lot of people had other things. So when the time was up, they kind of had to run. So yeah, that's one of the problems with Gen Con, is that a lot of people are so busy that when it nears the end, they say bye and then they run off because they might have to walk a mile to get to the next event. So that's the.
Could you do another seminar like that at one of these other cons?
Oh yeah, definitely. Me and Alyssa Faden will do one at Gamehole Con. So I just posted that on my Patreon blog today, so my patrons get a first chance to get tickets, and I will post that on my website, and it will be in the Flannery's Geographical Society too. So I will post also that my presence at Gamehole Con, because I will work in at times in the Kobold booth, but I will not be forced to be there all the time. So I will have plenty of time to babble with people and set up my computer and stuff and show this. So here I showed, this is what it looks like when it's in a finished form, so to speak. This is the set of islands that I've actually now forgot the name because I put them in Greyhawk. These are my contribution to the world of Earth. These islands, because they are well mapped. So I think I called them Edolf or something. Hang on a second. I need to open Realmworks and put them in because I forgot. I gave them a name, and they will be on the Earth map, and I will outline them with more cool stuff, and they will be presented as my contribution to Earth, so to speak. So they will be presented in full detail, and especially this little bit over here. It's kind of cool. These islands are very hard to get into, and my patrons were really cool when I did this. This was my second Patreon project. And these islands are presented in, I think it's 30 feet per pixel. So they are super detailed. If you go down here, this is just a short example. So I have them, you can see individual houses and basically individual trees and stuff. So there's, and you have all the data and stuff. So they're kind of super detailed, and you got isometric view and stuff. So these are really Cool. So let's go in here, and I'm just gonna ICC Solnor. Here we go. And let's see here. They should be here somewhere. RDC. They should be somewhere in the Istold Island. I called them here. Good. Istold.
Okay.
Yep. So that was my name. So they will be they're of course not canon, but they're my little contribution to the world. So they're a group of islands out there in the Solnor Ocean, so to speak, and so they will be presented more in detail on my website with more detailed maps and some scenery descriptions and stuff like that. And if you go in here, so there is a little fortress on this hideaway on this little island here that is going from this lake, and there's a little town or village here, and there's some roads here and there and forest and stuff. So I just wanted to make a very highly detailed map. This is more of a tech demo, and it's so detailed. So up here you can actually see what it looks like when you come sailing from this point here. I think you can actually see what the islands look like. And this is, so you have the top-down view, you have aerial photography like this, so you can actually describe. So this is more kind of a tech demo of the kind of map that I want to do for detailed areas of Greyhawk. I want to have the whole Flanies mapped at this level, this quality. This is what I'm aiming for.
Can you imagine storing that, Mike, on your hard drive?
Yeah. So I want to have every realm, all the details should be like this. You should have
the whole maps like in the video games, the Battle Royal games, Fortnite, and those that you parachute into.
Yep. The ultimate will be to put this in a game engine, because and these have all the data, so you can actually do that. And I'm looking into what game engine to use for the future. So that's something that's my 10-year-old plan, is to put this in a game engine.
Josh has got big dreams.
Yep. So it's kind of so there's a lot of so I showed this image just to show what the quality would look like when you have a finished product, so to speak. So this was the first I did that was as a tech demo of what's possible. And now comes the most interesting bit. It's the coming soon TM section, so to speak. Oh, not so. So this is the first. We have a bunch of my commissions and stuff. So I'm working sometime. I don't know when the next Midgard project for Kobold Press is coming out. So it's 2020 something. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know when it's going to come out yet. It's not that much. I'm almost done with it. So we'll see. I don't know when it come out. And then I'm going to work for Legendary Games, a big commission next year. I had no idea when that comes out either. So this one I can't talk about because I don't know anything about it. So it's that simple. We just talked to Jason Nelson, and we said that he wanted me to work on something, and I said that I would love to work with him. So we kind of I'm going to work on something next year. So that's all I know about it. And then I have this one is a little bit more interest to Greyhawkers and stuff. This is for Gryffindor Games. This is a map Kickstarter that I want to do in 2021. And this is a little bit cooler, so I'm going to spend 2 minutes and talking about this one. I always wanted to do a bunch of generic maps for people that do homebrew. You have your home world, your home game, and you want a cool area to game, but you can't spend $5,000 and commission me or Alyssa Faden or someone else to do the setting map for you. So I thought, why don't we do a number of areas that are basically a few hundred miles, like 300 by 300 miles or something. We have to see exactly, but a number of areas that are some hundreds of miles on each section, and present them in full glory, printed, digital, and so on and so forth, without any labeling or anything. So you can simply get these maps, and the first set that we would do for the first Kickstarter will be a bunch of iconics, meaning the desert area, the jungle, a number of areas. And I guess the Kickstarter backers will probably have to vote on whatever they want to see. So we can simply say that we will do 8, or we will do 6, or we will do 10, whatever, depending on how much money we can gather. And I will do a sample area or two to show for the Kickstarter. But they will be basically done as the islands map that I showed before. But a large area, the islands there were about 100 miles across. So there'll be something probably 4 times the size of that. Iconic locations, or not iconic, but generic areas that you can use, like the generic temperate area, like a normal kingdom or stuff. And then you can put whatever towns, labels, roads, or whatever you want, and run it as your integrated into your home campaign. That way you will have the same base terrain, but you can turn it into your own, so to speak. And that way you can get it for peanuts compared to commission me to do it just for you, so to speak. So it's a way of getting it for a few tens of dollars instead of getting it for 1,000 or thousands of dollars. So that's we haven't. Yeah. So that's the plan that I'll start working in 2021 or something on that. And then we have the really interesting bit. Is now comes the bit that I think it's for Legend Laureates, my Greyhawk projects that I'm going to do for my Patreon and work on. And of course the first one is the Flanneys 576, the one that everybody has been nagging me and so on. So yeah, so I've already started just a little bit, so this one will work has already started, and this one will be trickling out to my patrons this fall, and the goal is to have it done by the end of the year for everyone, so to speak. So my patrons will start getting bit by bit this fall, and then there will be some previews and stuff presented for everyone. And I can say the way I will approach this is that I will be inclusive rather than exclusive. That I'm always trying to be that. So I simply assume that if a town or a city was there in the Living Greyhawk campaign, it probably existed 10 or 12 or 15 years early, so to speak.
How many new places were built in 10 years span?
Exactly. So if it reasonably, some areas are some of smaller. There's some that was just a keep, and then 10 years later became bigger.
I'm pretty sure all 576 and 591 is exactly the same.
Exactly, they're the same. So they will mainly be shifting borders, other heraldry, and a lot of places that were ruined in 598 were not ruined in 576, and so on. Yeah. So those are the main things that will be changed, and then we might have a little bit less of evil incursions, and 10 will come back, and the Horn Society will come back. This is a quick mock-up I did, and I put the Horn Society in here. This mock-up is made of based on my campaign map, because I had more data on it, so it kind of looked cooler. And I put the shield lands are now back in here, but they need to be more green and beautiful here, and less ravaged and stuff. So there needs to be some tweaking and stuff. So yeah. Oh, we have yeah.
Jimmy just said hello.
Exactly. Hi, Jimmy. It was wonderful seeing you at Gen Con. So thank you so much for stopping by the booth a couple of times. So yep. So this is the first big project that we'll spend a lot of time this fall doing this. And the next one is the Lendor Isles, and that one is probably about 1/3 through the way. The problem with Lendor Isles are two. One is that I wanted to, well, first of all, I have Len, and he's not a problem. He's an asset. But the thing is that he's a huge asset. The thing is that he also introduced a whole lot of things that needed to be looked at and tweaked back and forth. So I wanted to make sure to go through this one with finesse and delicacy, so to speak, and not run over and just present something. So when I got help and a lot of input from Len, I put this one a little bit on the back burner. So through this fall, I will start working on it more and try to get more information out of Len, and he will get a chance to look at it. And there will be at least 2 versions of this one. It will be one to try and match the official TSR Wizard of the Coast Lendor Isles, and then we will make the proper, so to speak, version that Len approved Lendor Isles with Laurel Tarma named the right way, placed in the right spot, etc., etc. And so there will be at least 2 other versions for it. So that's the
so much for such a just a small out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Enigma of Leonard.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So we try and tweak things a bit here. So we'll see. So that's why I had to push this one to spring 2020. So that because it requires a lot more handholding and stuff. So it's kind of, and it's also detailed. This will be as detailed as the island project that I showed because it's based on the same setup. So we're talking 30 feet per pixel roughly, or 100 or something like that. So it's really detailed, and it's going to be kind of cool down to house levels. You can see
Going to be able
individual
to read
buildings.
the license plate on the back of the wagon.
No, unfortunately not. We can see individual houses, and large wagons. You can see the wagon is there or not, so to speak. So, yeah, yep.
Oh,
So it will be somewhere in the range of 30, 50 feet per pixel, something like that.
Crazy.
Yep, and it's also the first kind of Greyhawk area to get the new treatment, so it's kind of a test balloon. That's why I wanted to have an island and not something that is tied to the mainland.
I feel sorry for Anna's players. She can fireball them from orbit.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's tough. It's tough as
Precision.
hell.
Got
Yep,
to go in.
tough as hell. So then we have another project, and this is Hepmonaland. I announced at GaryCon that I want to do, but it's also one of these that is has fallen victim to another thing. One is I've been so damn busy doing commission work and stuff, so I haven't had time to dig it. But also one of the other reasons is there is now a new generation of 3D terrain tools coming out that are way more powerful than the ones I'm working with right now. And my idea was to do Hepmonaland with the same technique that I did the Flanice map, but going straight into Photoshop, so it will look just like an addition to the existing map, and simply do it. And that will be a lot of work, but manageable, probably within 3-4 months of work. So I thought that will be kind of a 6 months work
Nice.
on the Patreon. But now it might be possible to, instead of doing it to get to match, actually doing it in full 3D, full super detailed from scratch, because that will actually save me a lot of work because I don't have to do it twice. So I thought, instead of spending first 50% of the energy and then go back and do it again, I thought, why don't do it well from the get-go? So that's why I put it on the back burner at first. So now I'm going to, next year it's time to look in and see if it's possible. So this spring I will probably know if it's possible to do it in full glory 3D from the get-go, and then it will be the first large area test of doing a large continental scale in new 3D, so to speak. And also they will be, when it will be, that will be up to my patrons, because I have a whole bunch of Greyhawk projects that I want to do. So what I will do the next month or so, will present all of these projects in kind of a rough layout and have a time frame, set targets, goals, and kind of quality standards for each of the projects, and then it will be up to my patrons to decide which should come next and which should come after that, and to prioritize things. So yep. So if you want to be in and have a chance to tell me what to do, then you become a patron of mine and join my Patreon, because then you can tell me what to do and what to do and when, so to speak. And you also get a chance to see it before anyone else. So that's one of the projects that will be presented to my patrons in kind of a more kind of a bullet points and some screenshots and stuff that we can discuss it. And another one that is coming is Worth, or Oith. I don't want to call it Oith.
The world.
Yeah, the world. And now we're not talking 100 feet per pixel here. No. Now we're talking 25, 30, 50 miles per pixel. So NASA has a picture. Let's see if I can find it here somewhere. NASA has a picture they did. I don't going to open that one. Here, I'm going to Dropbox.
First the Lindor Isles, then the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Over.
So let's see here. Worth.
Guys, at $5 a month, Patreon Indiana is a no-brainer for
Yeah.
all the content
Yeah.
you get.
That's-
Yeah.
Absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, this is a picture that NASA did for the Earth. So I want to create a similar looking picture for Earth, like this. And we're talking, each pixel here is roughly, I think, about 20 miles or so. This image is about 10,000 pixels across, or 8,000 or something like that. So that's the goal. And I have two tools that I want to look. I want to look Fractal Terrains 3 and Wilbur, or a couple of tools, and Gaia. I will use a bunch of tools that I have a little bit of familiarity, but not that much. But this is the goal. I want to create something that looks like this for Earth, that has a basic elevation map, so we can actually wrap it on the globe and we get the mountain sticking out, so you can get these kind of overview of the image of the world. And this is also to kick off so we can take a look at the layout, because if we're going to do the Flanies in detail, we want to know exactly where the Flanies is. So one of the main goals with mapping Earth is to pinpoint where the Flanies is, where it's located. So when I map an area in detail, I want to know exactly the right coordinates, because it's kind of difficult to move them afterwards. So that's why we need to have, so the rest can be kind of rudimentary, but the Flanies, we need to know exactly where it is. So that's why this is going to be the goal. And the same thing as I try to do in everything else, I try to be inclusive. So here is the first kind of the sketch. You've seen this on previous episodes on Legends and Lore Show. I just made a kind of cool little promotional graphic. So this is the on the globe, and this is the background here. So I want to be inclusive, and if there's like 4 or 5 different versions of Earth. Dewey Carthen, Rick Miller, he made one hell of a cool map, and I talked to him at Gen Con. He came past the Lone Wolf booth. Yep. And he has an even better version of that one that he's going to send me, and hopefully put on in Earth Journal or on Greyhawk Online as well. We'll see. And so he made a cool version. There is one version that came out of Paizo early or something, because it's been credited to be in the Eric Mona version. And then there was the one version that I'm not sure if Eric Mona was part of doing it. It was just credited on one forum, and I just copied it and saved it for posterity. And so that's one cool version. And then there is the version that was kind of the official TSR version that was in the Best of Dragon number something back in forever ago. And I want to be inclusive, so I want to add, if it's on one of these kind of cool versions of Earth, I want to make a best of version of the maps and be inclusive rather than exclusive. So we'll see. So this one probably has to go around the Greyhawk community, and people have to yell and scream at me a bit and say what's good, what's not good. And then it will hopefully come some sort of consensus that most people can kind of accept a certain version of it, and we can kind of work with it as going forward. So this one will probably take a while to do, but I want to have it in there because it's a key project going forward, so to speak, to have it. And it will be one that I will present to my patrons in more detail, and they can kind of decide. But I want to give this one fairly high priority, so I want to work on this one next year definitely, to have it in. And it's also, from a technical perspective, it's something really, really interesting, because if I've nailed down how to do this, I can do a lot of symbols, setting sketches or world sketches for a bunch of other settings. So it's also something that I want to figure out how to do. I have a basic idea on how to do it, but that means that it's probably 50 pitfalls before I'm there. So that's one of the thank you, Grenwolf. It's the Best of Greyhawk Dragon 1. Okay, perfect. Yep. So that's one of the projects that I talked about on the seminar. And then we have one, iconic locations. And this is one that is not only one project, but many. But one of the things that I always wanted to do, I wanted to present an area in detail. And now we're not talking 100 feet per pixel. Now we're talking almost battle map scale. I wanted to have, so you can have almost the 5-foot squares. And then you can see, and here's this is just a mishmash of cool graphics really, but you have some of from the island, but just so you can see the style. You have the Temple of Elemental Evil. I did a map back in 20 years ago, 25 years ago. That was
Mhm.
actually the thing. It was I had to split it into two and then do a quick and dirty Photoshop, adding some terrain in between, so it actually matches, but it's still not perfect. But this is the village of Nulb, and you have the Temple of Elemental Evil. And I
Cool.
also experimented sometime 10 years ago with doing 3D models. So I made a 3D model of the temple and the tower you have here, and I put them in a world. And now I have some good friends, especially Linda Booth. She
Oh
can
yeah,
do
Linda.
some awesome 3D modeling and stuff. So we can actually build like a 3D map, so you can see what not only what the temple and the village of Null, but the next 5 or 10, 20 miles around it. So you can kind of play in an area, and you will have basically every tree and nook and cranny. And there are a number of cool places. The Temple of Elemental Evil in Nulb and Hamlet, and the Moat House is of course one of the iconic locations that should be looked at in detail. But there's a whole bunch of other cool ones that I kind of love. That is the Spine Castle, and another one I mentioned at the seminar is Rift Canyon. Is one of my I just want to map it because it's one of the coolest features in the Flanies, and it's also a mapping challenge. So that kind of deserves a look in Dragotha's Lair and Rift Crag and a whole bunch of other cool things that needs to be looked at. So that was the and then I had the final is how to get in touch with me and how to support me and this stuff. So that was a quick kind of going back and revisit what the seminar was about. But the seminar was about twice as long, and we had a lot of questions on each of them. So yeah.
And Christoph and Tony got you the larger room, correct? Did they get
Yes,
you the larger?
exactly. They got me the room for 80 people instead of this. And the first one was not even a room. It was
Right.
a lounge that was part of the lobby of the Hyatt. And the thing was that they had a bunch of couches, so that could maybe seat 20 people, and 10 of them will be facing away from, yeah. So they were facing in every
Bizarre.
direction. Yeah, it was simply ridiculous. It was so that I can simply say a lot of things are well run at Gen Con. The assignment of rooms to have seminars in certainly not one of them. So it was crappy. So we simply rented, or they rented, the Gryffindor Games rented a bigger room for me. So that was I'm
Ah,
forever
okay.
grateful.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, if you want more Anna maps, they showed their new their adventure, and I have it right here. I bought it
Yes.
already.
So you have the
Curse
book.
of Lost Memories. It's
Yep.
it's setting neutral.
Yep.
There's a book in 5e and in Pathfinder. So I got the Pathfinder one to convert back to old school 1e, 2e. But there are a ton of Anna maps inside this book as well
Yep.
that you've never seen before.
Mhm.
And it's good. I haven't really dug into it that much. I just got it today.
Very cool.
And I would, it's available on Amazon, so it's
Yep.
so you can get a little break on it. And I would recommend taking a look at it.
Yeah, it's a
Definitely.
very detailed adventure path that is
Absolutely.
yeah, that describes
Hardback, nice hardback book.
Yeah, it's the Lost Barony of Walemore, so it's kind of a cool setting with a little bit of a fantasy horror vibe to it and stuff. So it's kind of cool, and I've been heavily involved in doing the maps, and so I actually did the map, and a lot of the book is written to match my map. So it's kind of cool.
Awesome.
That's why they wanted me in on it early. So and I'm working on that I showed. Now going back, the Kingdom of Lothmar, that's the setting that is a much larger area than the Barony of Walemore, and that is a setting book that is going to start kickstarting in a couple of weeks or a month or so. So it's coming in, and so that will be a lot of my maps in there too. So yep. So that was my seminar. So now you got the quick and dirty version of it, and I hope that some of the new Greyhawk projects that I want to dig into was going to interesting.
You specifically mentioned Mike's All during that
Yes, exactly.
presentation.
Yeah, I
She
always
did.
I always mention that because it's the perfect example. Because a lot of times I get the question, how do I get my cool Greyhawk stuff on your map? How do others get their stuff on my map? And a lot of people, they want to bribe me a little bit, and they want to not threaten me, but they want to bribe me. They ask me questions, say, how I have this cool thing I've invented for my campaign. How do I get it on the map? And I'll simply say, well, you can make your own version. You simply download the Illustrator file, you make your own version. And if you can use Illustrator and you don't want to do it, then you pay me to do it. So if you don't want to do it yourself, those are but if they want it on the official version, the one that I distribute on my website, then the quickest and best way or surest way of doing it is first you create content in an area that doesn't have a content, and you share that content with the Greyhawk community, because if it's content that is widely used and liked in the Greyhawk community, that's the key. Because and I always take Mike your owl because it's a perfect example.
Yes.
It's something that's well written. It fills a void that, because owl was basically not detailed.
It was a void.
Yep, and also it's widely used in the Greyhawk community. It's downloaded probably hundreds or thousands of times, and a lot of Greyhawk gamers and DMs and stuff, they incorporate your version of owl, has de facto become the standard version of owl.
I was gonna say, I'd like to think that by now people just think it's, except that's the real version.
Yeah, and so that's a perfect example of how, meaning then I want to put it on the map, and so that's what you do. You write something cool, you go to Greyhawk Online and you hand it over for publication, or you start your own Greyhawk blog and do it, or you go to Greyhawk Online and you share the stuff there and say that, oh, I write something cool, and it could be a blog post on Greyhawk Online, and it can go into the Earth Journal, for instance. That's a perfect spot to make, and then people make good comments, say this is an awesome content, we love it, and that's the best way of getting into. You can bribe me with I'm not so much of a cookie monster, but chocolate works really well. I'm a chocoholic, so that works really well.
We have done some convention meals together, so maybe there was a little bribing going on.
I've bribed her too.
But I actually put the stuff there before we met at the convention, so it was already on there. It was it was back in the day. You wrote an Earth Journal article, I think, back 20 years ago or something, and I sent you. We worked on the map, and I sent it. So I had the map published in one of the Earth journals that was fairly early, I think.
That was just one you threw together.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So that was way in the
cool.
back. So that's kind of the normal way of doing it. And the interesting thing is, you and many other Greyhawk content creators have way more stuff on the map than I do. I only have a few places from my campaign, and one of them is that I don't want to. I do the map, and others can put the content in, but I also have a campaign version of the map, and that one has only been published for my patrons, but I'm going to revise my patron membership and tiers a little bit, so it's going to be more widely and distributed, and I'm also going to make updates every 2 years or 3 years and present that on my website as well, so people can see a little bit more insight into my own Greyhawk campaign and stuff.
Don't listen to Gary, everyone.
No, I don't want to remove it. But if Mike has some word they come run over the Bacloonish or I use or someone else, then we have to So you see, now Mike has the power of the owl to they might have screw it up and do something. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I like to think that they can hold their own so they don't get wiped off.
They lived for quite some time up there, and they're so remote no one else wants to live there, I guess. So
boy, Bavix, you kind of stumped me there with Danwich Manor.
I just looked. I didn't see it.
Is it?
Oh, I don't think so. No,
map?
No. Hang on a second. Let's check that and see.
I didn't see it. I saw Castle Greyhawk's ruins on there. I didn't see that.
We'll see here.
Well, I'm wondering if it's on the City of Greyhawk map.
City Greyhawk map from '83. Really? I mean, whenever that was made, 87? Free City Greyhawk box set.
Oh, that one is from 85, 86, 87, something. Yeah, it's from the 80s.
Would it be on that one that early?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Let's see. I'll go here and we can take a peek here.
Like, Grant, that's a good question because I ran Ravenloft in my and Ravenloft 2 both
north of Greyhawk City. There are not that many much in the form of forest north of Greyhawk City, as far as I know. So it's certainly not there, but it's interesting. I'm going to take a note, and then we have to do some research.
There'll be
So I'm
some
going to
find it.
copy this straight.
Cradle of Manus is the third of the series, isn't it? Or is it the second before the Doom Grinder?
Huh.
Or I'm thinking of Cryptolures.
Gems.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm thinking of something different.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know that one myself. So
Yeah.
that one maybe slipped by everyone.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Bavix. I put that in my map notes folder in Evernote, which means that I put all the stuff that I want to look at for the next edition of the map. I put notes in there, so every time I do an update on the map, I simply go through. And the 2019 update, I had 360 notes or something like that to go over, and some of them are quick, and some of them requires a day of research and stuff to read and things. So yeah. Yeah, Gary, that's interesting. There's a bunch of layers, there. Yeah, we need to. And Duane Costa, that's a great question. What other holes of and that requires more content? One of the holes is this. The fairy kingdom of Selene is very sparse. And I've that's one
Not
of
on my
the
map.
yeah. Here are some of my additions to the map that actually I invented a couple of these places here. Not they are not mentioned. They're hinted at because they're in a place there is like Bell Meadow, and the translations is the 3.5. There was one of the books about elves. They had a translation, so I used that because that was the official when Greyhawk was the official setting. So I used this. So I call it the Anarnarum, and it's Bell Meadow, and that's the birthplace of Queen Yolandi, or Yolande, or however you say it. So that was her, if I remember correctly, that was her birthplace. So I simply put that in the middle of the kingdom. I wasn't really sure where to put it, but I simply wanted to fill out something. And then this place, I'm not really sure where it comes from, but I think that was simply because it should be a place that. So that I think is one of my few additions to the map. And then you have these two down here are from the Living Greyhawk campaign. The same thing goes with these are the Living Greyhawk campaign. And now we have something we need to talk about here, Jay. We need to talk about something that might make it into the next edition of the map. Yeah, and down here we have here you have the
right at that three-way intersection.
Yeah, you have Corewood here, and then here is one of the main roads coming in here, and you have the road going here. So there is a spot here and an opening here for a place, and exactly
it's right where that three-way intersection northwest of Treehome is, right there. That's where we put it.
Yep.
Yeah, we have it's called the Free City of Altamira.
You call it a free city, so it's not part of the County of Ulick?
It's an Order of Ulick hold, right?
Ah, okay.
Now it pays fealty to the County of Ulick. It does.
Yep.
Pays taxes to the County of Ulick, but it's not run by the Count of Ulick. It's run by the Order of Ulick.
Ah, okay. So I think this is that's another good example. Meaning there is this is a bunch of roads that are kind of well used, so to speak, and this is one of the vital artery between the western part and the eastern part of the County of Ulick, and then you have a road going south towards the Principality. So there should be something in that road intersection. Started out with a big inn, and then it can grow from there. So it's really neat.
With three keeps.
Yep.
And that's how we started it back in 1987, actually.
Yep.
And the funny thing is that the adventure I'm running tomorrow night on my stream starts there. And so the map we have come up, and by the way, Anna, you have put 20, I counted them. You added 21 locations to Selene for me.
Cool. Yep. You see, 20. Yep.
I love Selene. Yes, my campaign loves Selene. But so that we are going to be starting in that. And if you see where High Lauren is, down south, down at the bottom of Selene.
Yep.
Right.
There.
We're going to be going from Altamira to the Golden Tower. Which is in southern Selene that you added. Right. So you see where High Lauren is right there? Remember there were those two roads that pop off from that? Remember we put the Golden Tower and Tim's lightning rod tower
Oh,
for
that's
fencing.
true. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right, they're both there, and so we're
Yep.
going to be going from Altamira to the Golden Tower in tomorrow night's adventure, and we have that map up that you've edited, which is
Cool.
fantastic. Yep,
Thank you. Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah. So these are examples of something that, because I think Altamira is worthy of putting there
Thank you.
because it fills a void and it adds cool things, and it can also be, Jay, something that you can put an article on Greyhawk Online describing Altamira, and there will be further
Yeah.
detail, just like you, Mike, did with All, because there's great articles, and meaning now there's more information about All than a bunch of other, probably more about All than there is about Selene. And it matches. So
Right.
that's so I often don't want to put just a place name on it if it's fan creation, because I want to have a backstory and some more information. But an article in Greyhawk Online or on Earth Journal detailing a place where there's some cool stuff, cool features, that's a perfect reason to put it in, if it doesn't contradict any
Sure.
previous published sources, so to speak.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. So that's
And I appreciate that. And like I said, we've been going strong since a long time on
Yep.
Altamira and the Selenian Sith Forest Watch, which I was probably going to do an article on in the Factions
Yeah.
journal coming out in 2 months.
Cool.
Or
Yep.
whenever Christoph brings it out. So there's a lot of cool stuff.
Yep.
For that,
So that was so when we had that question on the seminar, then I used Mike's all articles as the example. That's my standard example, because this the most one of the best examples of how
It's awesome.
to put
Definitely.
fan content. Yep.
I think
yeah.
game masters read the extraneous lore, and then they decide what they want to dish out to their players.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Was that
To answer the question in chat.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
cool.
let's
Yeah,
see. Do we
absolutely.
have any other? We have almost all the. If we go over the map again, almost all the remote areas have lots of room to grow, so to speak. There is the Stonehold, for instance. Stonehold
Yeah,
was
that's a good
basically
spot.
empty, and then in Living Greyhawk campaign they added these Ataman ships, basically provinces, and then each province is as big as most other countries.
Right.
So each province is a couple of 100 miles across, and they often come with only one settlement. So they come like Bastru Ataman ship has a town of Bastru here by the coast, and that's it. Meaning there's plenty of ship. And Kelton here as the large town of Kelton, and there's plenty of room. Meaning there's an enormous amount of potential development here. There a lot of wilderness. So there is no development. And if we want to go to the extreme, we have the ice barbarians, the coast here. This is a huge area. We have 1,000 miles or more of coastline here that can be developed, and we have the Taival tundra, and that there's only one settlement, basically, or two. There's Josplat, that was not mentioned much, but I think Carlos has an adventure that mentioned Josplat that is set up there.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly. My impression of this have always been this is a settlement where they, in the summer, they hunt walrus and various other animals and stuff that shows up in the summer, the brief little Arctic summer, and then in the winter they just hunker down and survive, and then next summer they go out and thrive, and then they so they hunt things from polar bears to walruses and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then in the summer they simply ship that downriver, and then they ship it down south and earn money on it, so to speak. So next spring there will be money coming back, and they can basically earn a living. So there are probably some people living their whole life. Other probably adventurers, if you want to have a rough life earning a lot of money on the frontier, you can probably work a couple of years in Josplat and earn quite a bit of gold coin up here. That was my kind of envision of this place, so to speak. And then there is one other area here, and that's it's called Dockholder. It's one from Living Greyhawk campaign. Some little sect or some site from some sect or something. It's mentioned something, so it's just a site. I don't think anyone lives there. Those are the only two features in an area that is roughly 500 miles long. And if you take the western part here, here is an area that is completely uninhabited, no civilization, and this is as big as well, half of Furundi or something like that, meaning
All right.
you have an enormous area here that is not, there is nothing. You have an island up here that is not, doesn't even have a name, that is that you can use for, if you want to have a wintry location, you can put whatever you want in. This island here has a lot of potential, so to speak.
I could probably add some content
Yep.
for Kruski for you, and
Yep. Oh,
just
cool.
run a campaign up there.
Awesome. Yep. Then we need to look into that one. And then this area here too, the Button's Teeth. You have here is Seoul, the only settlement here, but you have fjords and a lot of coastline and stuff. So yeah. So there's a lot of, and the same thing goes with the whole barbarian or kind of the barbarian northeast up in the Tilonrian Peninsula is basically mostly unsettled. That might be, but there's also a lot of potential for monster hunting, for all sorts of cool things up here. Spiky forest, and also northern Noratic up here is very, the hold of Olthek. And north of here you have a major river and a whole bunch of stuff, no detail whatsoever. So there's a lot of potential here for cool things. So if you want to have a hold, you can kind of grab an area up here and name it something and start defending it. And there's plenty of
A
possibilities.
lot of real estate there.
Yep, there's a lot of real estate. Down here it's a bit less, but Eastern Pale has a lot of potential here. There's some big cities and stuff here though, but there's a lot of detail that should be villages and areas in between. So if you want to run a civilized adventure where there is not
There's
that
room
much
everywhere.
yeah,
Really, there's a lot of room almost anywhere. To place
exactly.
where you
Yep.
campaign. It's just
Mhm.
so cool about it.
Yep.
You know?
Bone March, also very low in detailed. There's some details in the Depars or Defar, or however you pronounce it, the lands of the Dreadlord. There's a little bit of, he's one of the Death Knights from Great Kingdom, I think, and he settled down here. So there's a lot of cool. There you have one villain, and then you have Spine Castle that was run over by orcs and stuff. But here you have a large part of Bone March that is a few ruins, and then it's just empty. And the southern bit is even less detailed. Is when you come down to Knurl, that you have some detail from the Gord books and stuff, but it's mainly empty. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and there's also a lot of place up here. The northern bit of former Great Kingdom or the North Kingdom is eerily empty. The Principality of Capord Bay only has two little Low Scarport and Capord Bay and High Scarport. And then you have the Isle of Lost Souls, the gateway of the fiends. But there's 1,000 square miles here, just up for grabs. Put cool details in there, and and then you have the whole east coast here is eerily empty of detail. You have, take the area around Rel Astra, for instance. You have the Lone Heath,
Question.
the Gronwood Forest, and there's 1,000 miles of coastland between Montesser and Rel Astra. I couldn't find any detail whatsoever. And so there's plenty of and this is an area that I think should have a lot more civilization to it. And it's probably some of the best climates and best real estate in the Flanies, and it's also away from a lot of other evil stuff. If you want to move to an area that is fairly far away and safe from Ayus and a bunch of other stuff, Rel Astra is probably quite high on my list. Nice climate, coastal climate, and yeah, so or Windsea or something, or Roland. It's a great area to think. So there's a lot of Medigia, almost devoid of detail. Nothing.
Well, Anna, before you make another spin around the
Yeah.
entire plan, we're at 9 o'clock.
Oh yeah, we have you see, as soon as I get into maps, I just go crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So, yep.
Oh, good.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, she just showed like the northeast portion of the map, and there's a lot of
Yep. The Bacloonish West. There's so much
mean, you got
empty
to the
space.
south.
Yep.
There's a lot
Yep.
that really you can make
But-
your own.
Yeah, and
Just-
those are areas that are a lot of, like Celine is next door to Greyhawk, so you don't have to go 1,000
True.
miles away. You can find a lot of hidden little places, hidden pockets here and there. So yep. Yep, so there's plenty of areas you can make your own. So yep.
So I wanted to bring it back
Yep.
to Gen Con real
Yep.
quick, and I'm sure Anna, you're going next year.
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely.
Are you going again, Jay?
I am not decided yet because I'm definitely Gary Con's 100%.
Right.
And
I've always been like a one con person, but now I feel like this urge to, I might try to go at least for one day next year.
Yeah.
Go up on a Saturday.
It was an experience, definitely. I would do a lot of things differently, like stay right there. I mean, that's it.
Too many people I need to meet, and
right.
So I can't stay away, I feel.
Yeah. Gen Con is it's the spot where you can meet everyone, so to speak. And
Cool.
but I will
try to go to Gary.
I will probably also do a different. Now I worked for years in a booth, so we'll see if I do that next year or not. I'm not really sure. So we'll
I think
see.
Gary Con has already started.
Yes, and and the gold was gone in 5 minutes, and I picked up a silver before I went to Gen Con. You better check. They're going to go fast.
Yeah, I probably have to look into it.
Badges, that was it. I mean,
before you panic, though, Josh, I never get a badge ahead of time. I just show up and get whatever badges I need for the day, and then I just go meet people and get invited to games and things.
Yeah, that works probably for GaryCon most cons, but Gen Con actually sells out.
And
this year they also said if you showed up there in the morning trying to get a badge, you couldn't because they were all sold out. So that's the Gen Con. Last year they sold out several weeks before, even individual days. I think you can only get a Thursday badge this year at the door. And Saturday and Sunday badges were sold out. They had signs outside saying you can get a badge. Last year, I think they sold out the 4-day badges weeks before the convention started, and the single days sold out before the convention too.
There are 1,389 silver badges left for Gary Con.
There you go.
Out of 2,000.
Okay, so then I probably have to grab one then too. So I have no clue on where I live or whatever, because GaryCon has been a problem for me because we ended up a couple of miles away, and that's always a trouble, especially in the winter when it's cold.
So this Greyhawk Con it was discussed, and I'll be honest, that was discussed by myself and Shane to organize something on that Greyhawk Con, and that's all I'll say. Okay, I don't know how far it's going to go beyond that, but that was discussed at Gen Con.
I used to manage assistant manage a hotel for many, many years, and I always shot down the idea of holding a con in my hometown. My friends would tease that. I'm like, no.
Yeah, you want to go and play. You don't want to be the one.
I don't want to be working it.
Yep. I can totally get it. Yes. But to have GaryCon is in many ways Greyhawk Con and then they had in Texas they had one con that was a lot of Greyhawk.
North Texas, the one that Alan talks about.
Yep.
That was limited to 500. That was it. Mike Wilson had said that on my stream on Monday night, that it was limited to 500.
Yeah.
That is a tight amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Very tight. But
silver badge at GaryCon is like
$85.
Yeah, that was what it was last year at least. So I think it's the same this year, I hope. Yep.
It's 85.
Okay. Yeah.
The problem's lodging, because it's so small.
Yeah.
You're gonna get you're already, the lodging's all taken up. You're gonna get pretty far away.
Yeah.
It's
you get a couple of miles away down in town, I guess. Yeah.
It's like right over the Illinois border. So I would always stay in Illinois and then just cross over into Wisconsin. But this next coming GaryCon will be the first time I actually stay in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Same here. Can't wait.
Yeah, and the problem is that not only at GaryCon you have the problem also that you have parking at the facility. So even if you live in town, then you have to park. This year when we went to Gary, we had to park down on the runway at the airport or the airfield. It's called an airport kind of. Yeah. So then you have to go in one of the shuttles up to the Lake Grand Geneva Resort. So
Geneva, Wisconsin. Yeah. It's The rooms right at the resort sold out in 1 hour
Yeah,
when it
yeah.
opened up.
So I would go to GaryCon in a heartbeat if I can be at the Grand Geneva Resort. No problem. But now when I have to be some dodgy somewhere else and might have to get a car and so yeah. So then
It
it's a lot
could
of
very
ifs.
well outgrow that place someday.
I think it's already have to
Well,
some
that's why they're
degree.
limiting the badges. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
why you got to
I
get
just
your.
don't know where they would jump to next. It's like
I don't
Gen Con
know.
all over
They
again.
have to go. Maybe they
Right,
follow
Milwaukee.
Gen Con. We'll go to Wisconsin to
Oh,
Milwaukee or something.
Yeah.
But that would kind of defeat the purpose because it's supposed to be in
Right.
Lake Geneva. That's the idea. So I guess then it might become more exclusive. It'll be only the insiders, the rich and insiders and professionals and others, which in some ways will not be good because then you will lose the general gamers will not come. So yeah.
Playa, you're right. These cons are a gold mine for hotels.
Yeah.
Like the hotels in downtown Indy, when it's not Gen Con, are like a third of the price that they are in Gen
Yeah,
Con.
because I think a lot of hotel rooms in downtown Indy cost like $300 a night at Gen Con. It can be ridiculous, and they have some sort of
gouge.
lottery if you get a room or not. The reason I can get a room is because I've worked for companies, so I get like an exhibitor
Yeah.
badge and got a room, and for volunteering. So that's the way I've been able to stay at the JW or the Omni or something close that you can just walk. You basically living in the convention centers. You just
yeah, JW
yeah.
is nice.
Yeah, so they are
Nice.
fantastic that way. It's awesome. You live in the convention center. It's perfect. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go out when it's 95 degrees
I
and
would if I've done I need a nice hotel room.
yeah,
I'm not sharing a shower with 10 people again.
Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. So
One
that's
time it was an experience. It was great, but
Yep.
not, yeah.
Yep.
don't
So,
think
so
we're gonna
that
go
that's
back there.
that's the key with the difficulty thing with. But they also so if you want to experience Gen Con as a like a business person that way, there's a lot of companies who need volunteers. Gen Con itself needs volunteers and you can work and you can
Right.
get a badge and stuff. And there's probably 200 other exhibitors and that was like 400 almost or 400 or 500 exhibitors, and I bet 90% of them have volunteers in one way or the other. And so if you know a product well or a game well and you have contacts with them, a lot of the stuff that you game with and use, they have a booth there and they would love to have someone there who can demo things, who can sell things and help to make a booth. The problem is that there's a lot of walking, there's a lot of standing, and you lose your voice after 2 days. So it's kind of it's hard work. It's really hard work, but it's also a
Yes.
lot of fun. So
I don't know how people bring their entire families into that.
yeah, it's great. So for me, Gen Con is basically 12 hours of work and socializing, standing, walking around per day, and then 5 hours of sleep. And then 3 hours of walking in between and getting to stuff. So you basically work or walk for 16 hours a day or something like that.
Did
And then
enough for my real job.
yeah,
Drive.
yeah.
Drive.
So so it's hard to be a volunteer at Gen Con. It's damn hard, and just to visit Gen Con, you need to have shoes that you can walk in that because you have to realize that you have to walk 3 miles in a day.
Got those scooters now.
Yeah,
All
yeah, some of them some have, but it's a lot of I've seen a lot of people who probably walk more at Gen Con than they walk the rest of the year, and
Yeah, it's a lot
I
more.
I
literally
used to
mean
go
it.
on walks just to get Gen Con ready.
Yeah. So that I suggest go out and walk a couple of miles every day for months before Gen Con, so you're up to speed because it is you can literally even if you live in one of the hotels that attach to it, you can still have to walk a mile to get to where you want to be, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
one game is in one area and then you have to walk half a mile to get to the next
Eight
game.
conveyor belts.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's like an airport size. It's like a major airport in size. So yep.
Awesome.
Yep. So those are the and also have snacks and water and stuff ready. So
Mhm.
yeah, because it's not there are places to eat, but the queues can be forever long. And
The
if
food
you go
truck
exactly you go
area
out to
is
food
way
trucks,
too
it can be
long.
even worse. and the yummy food trucks can be 45 minutes wait in order to get it, and then it might be hard to find a place to sit and eat, so you have to sit on a curb or something to eat. And but there's a lot of yummy food trucks next door, and there's a lot of restaurants, but it takes a long time to. It's hard to get a table. So yeah,
Let's see. So anything else?
yeah. I haven't kept a close eye enough for
I
on
think
the.
we're all up to speed on
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, that was a quick, and I'm sorry if I babbled too much about maps and my seminar, but
That's awesome.
yeah, so that was, now you got a good rundown on what I said on the seminar. So yeah.
Anything else, Jay?
I got one big announcement. All right, we got our game tomorrow night, and then I'm on vacation. Mark will have his game on Monday, but we're going to be off next. No Gabbin this Sunday, and no game next Thursday. But the 18th, my special guest on Gabbin at Lord Peacehaven will be the Grow Dog himself, Alan Grow.
Ooh.
Awesome. Yep, that's
Yes.
wonderful. Yeah.
And we have some topics that Alan has chosen already. And I think it's going to be a fantastic discussion. And that'll be Sunday the 18th, 7:30 p.m. Special guest Alan
Yep.
Grow to discuss some of. He sent me his resume, and it's like it goes on and on and on. And I was like, wow, this is
Really?
impressive. So I was very happy to. He said yes, and that we're coordinating what we're going to discuss on that. So
Cool.
just wanted to look that
Yep.
out.
That's awesome. I'm really
you.
looking forward to that. So yep. Yeah, I have. I'm going to detail for my patrons the coming couple of weeks the projects that I showed here, plus probably 4 or 5 other projects that I have to that I want to my patrons to kind of dig into and figure out when I should, what priority, what should I do first, and wait to later. So that's one of the things that will come. Otherwise, I will start working on the 576 map, and then I will start to keep coordinating more with Len, and to start getting more of the details for the Lendor Isles. And then I'll see if I can, so there will be some 576 content coming,
Great.
trickling out to my patrons for probably the first thing coming next month in September, and then it will be a little bit every month and coming out, and then we have to dig in and see what kind of other projects, because I have a bunch of cool ideas that I want to present and see what we can do. And then we have the Earth map, and we have to start I will present more kind of versions of it, and that's something I want to present. These ideas, they will probably go straight to Flannery's Geographical Society. That's where I will present a lot of these kind of ideas and sketches, and people will come and say, oh, that's a good idea, that's a horrible idea, that's probably a bit better than that, or I like this better than that, and so on, because I want that to be spread wide in the community, so we can kind of drill down where the majority of Greyhawkers would find that more appealing than the other.
And it's growing like crazy too, getting a lot of applications every day.
Oh yeah, it's a group.
That's
There's
a
like
lot.
almost 1,900 members or something now. So
crazy.
it's great. I think it's a good, one of the best representatives of the Greyhawk, the wider Greyhawk community, so to speak.
Definitely.
So it's a perfect spot to just put things in there, and people can kind of, oh, I like that, I don't like that much, and so on. So that will probably have to go through 10 or 20 iterations before we can nail down something, and then it will be up to my patrons. We probably nail it down to the number of them, and weed out the worst excesses and omissions, and then kind of, okay, we go from there, because it will be cool if we can have a version of Earth that can be widely tolerated, at least in the Greyhawk community. That will be kind of cool to have that as a reference and work from it.
Cool.
Yep. Now we have done a quite long episode, but Gen Con is a huge beast to tackle,
Yeah.
so
Awesome.
we only tackle the very surface of it. There's so many cool things, like from ebony dice to marble things to whatever. There's all sorts of super cool things. If it's something that is available for sale, or a product or something related to role-playing games or board games, it is at Gen Con to be found.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a
everything.
ton of stuff.
Yep.
Mark actually connected me with a company that I'm trying to work out another sponsorship with. We'll see.
Hmm.
We'll see.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and I didn't even visit this one, and it's really cool. I mean, you wouldn't be, the technology's come a long way too. So, I mean, the sound quality of Sirenscape and all those other companies really blow me away.
Oh yeah, there's so many
just
cool tools, and
crazy stuff.
that's a whole other thing that think we should kind of look into a topic for next season. Definitely, it's something that if we want to play Greyhawk using digital tools, what kind of tools should we use, and how to tweak them, because that is the thing, because Greyhawk is not officially supported anywhere. You need to tweak it, so that's something to look into. Yeah, and yeah, thank you so much, John and a real Taco Turtle. It was awesome meeting you too, and we got things got out of hand in one evening, but we kind of repaired it. So that
I didn't want to comment.
exactly, that's all I'm going to say about that one. But yeah, you came to my seminar, and things were good. So this was
Absolutely.
great, and it was wonderful to
I
meet.
appreciate the invite tonight too.
Exactly. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Jay.
anytime.
We
No
would.
problem.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry. I'm exhausted. I'm
Yep.
driving
Huh.
ever the last 2 days for work.
Yep.
Uh,
Awesome. So thank you everyone for showing up and having so much cool things
We'll be
going on
back
in
next
chat.
week.
Yes, we will be back next week, and we haven't decided on a topic as usual, so we have to coordinate something for next week. And then we have 2 more shows. Well, 8. So in 9 and 10 we have, and then we have to see if we can do something a little bit extra for the last one this season. And then we going to take probably a month or so break, and then we have to figuring out how to do for next season, because there's going to be a 4th season. Definitely, that's going to be. But we have to see the kind of format, and we have to evaluate. Now we've done, what is it, like 30 episodes or something like that, almost 30 episodes. So we need to look over the format a little bit, and also the timing and all that. So
enhance things.
exactly. So we will be back next week, and we will, and then have a final episode for the season, and then we will be back again this fall for a 4th season, definitely.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks everyone for showing up as usual. Oh, good job, Geek.
That's awesome. You
Oh.
at least you came in, but
Dynamite
you have to go back and watch it. This is a long episode, but wait 5 minutes, and I think Twitch will have the replay ready to go. But good to see you again, and so that was awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will be back next week.
have a good one.
All right.
Have a great
Take
night.
it
See
easy,
ya.
everyone.